I'm live?
Yep.
Where'd the countdown go? What was there a countdown?
Just go live.
I did. I'm live, apparently.
Yeah, I'll explain it to you later since you fucked up.
All right. Well, is there even anyone in the chat right now?
Yeah, Correa. Look over.
Yeah, Correa, because she's a stalker. I love you, Correa. That was a joke. Don't take that the wrong way. It was a joke. All right. Well, I got some people popping in on my TikTok live right now.
You want to go ahead and do the introduction, dear?
Why?
Because they don't know who she is.
Okay. Well, I have 3 people in the live, 1 person in the comments.
Doesn't matter.
We'll see.
You wouldn't act like this if you would have done the thing right. You would have went right into it. So
yeah, well, I didn't mean... Hey, Moose Goose Eggs. What's up, Adam? Right. So tonight's Q&A, we have the one and only mother of dogs, or Jess, as she goes by. And this is her, your debut, right? You were saying? You've never been on a podcast or YouTube show yet? This is, your first.
This is it. I mean, I really hadn't even... I'm not a tech person, so when I got on TikTok, it was just to watch videos, and that was 3 months ago, and now we're here.
Yeah, that's pretty crazy.
Yeah.
You're definitely causing some waves, so just be patient. You will. Yeah.
Yeah.
Anyway.
What's up, y'all?
Yeah. Ask us some questions. We got nothing to talk about. It's just a casual hangout session. I wasn't sure if to do this show tonight because today was kind of a busy day and I didn't know if I'd have the energy or patience to do a live Q&A. But once I got the kids to bed, I was like, hey, I think I'm okay. Let's do it.
You should talk about that legislation that Britt and I sent you. You should start out with that.
No, I mean, Harris or Hitchens? That's favorite. Hitchens. Hitchens is my favorite. Harris isn't bad, but he's more... I like Harris, but he's more philosophical, which is not really my wheelhouse. Yeah, when I was a Christian in Bible college, I took an apologetics course, and I wanted to be able to legit debate atheists like William Lane Craig does. So I watched a debate between him and Christopher Hitchens, and I was like, Christopher Hitchens, he's the best atheist ever. So that opened me up to a whole new world of possibilities. So I started looking up more Christopher Hitchens, and I was like, he's legit. How about Matthew being anonymous? Yeah, Matthew's anonymous. They all are. Did early Christians believe that other gods existed? Yes, they did. Early ancient Rome was pantheistic. They believed in all the gods, all of them. There was no debate as to which god existed and which ones didn't. The debate was about which one was strongest and most worthy of worship. So early Christians, they were not persecuted because they were Christians, because they worshipped Yahweh. They didn't give a shit. You worship Yahweh, they just chose to worship a different god. They didn't care. They were persecuted because they refused to worship Roman gods, and they were meeting in assembly in secret because that was not legal at the time. That's early Christians absolutely believed in other gods. Yeah, I'm missing a tooth. I'm missing half a tooth. And we won't go into why that is.
I'm missing no teeth.
What is my favorite color? Black. No, okay. Royal blue is my favorite color. What part of the Bible really... Sorry, I'm reading through my comments on my TikTok now.
Oh, you're good.
What part of the Bible really made you cross your eyes? That was learning that the Gospels are written anonymously.
What about that?
Yeah, someone asked what part of the Bible made you really cross your eyes. I guess that's kind of asking what was a big wake up moment for you. It's a very common question I get a lot, and it's I was for over 10 years. I was told that the Gospels were reliable because they were written by 4 different eyewitness. I'm sure you're familiar, Jess. That's why they're reliable, because it's multiple independently tested eyewitness accounts of the things that Jesus did. And then they get to Bible college and they're like, yeah, we have no idea who wrote the Gospels, but it most certainly was not Jesus' disciples because they were illiterate Aramaic speaking. She left.
Yeah, she'll come back.
Yeah, maybe. Dragons in Genesis. Hey, what's going on, Dragons? Jessica just disappeared.
There she is.
There she is. Okay,
Sorry, I don't know what happened.
That's okay. Noob.
I'm just sitting here and it was like, bye. Okay, bye.
Dragons popped in, so let's say hi. Spartan Theology is in. Hey, Spartan. Favorite Star Wars movie? Oh God, I'm gonna piss some people off with this. Episode 1, The Phantom Menace, is my favorite. Now hold on.
More people?
Go ahead.
I've never seen any of them.
Neither has she. Neither Rachel, my fiance, soon-to-be wife. She hasn't seen any of them either.
I don't even care to see them, to be perfectly honest with you.
That's fair. It's a different generation, but like what?
I've seen parts. I'm really bad with movies.
I saw episode 4, A New Hope. That was the first Star Wars movie I saw, and then I saw episode 1, The Phantom Menace, in theaters as a young teenager, and it was the shit. And then I saw The Return of the Jedi and Empire Strikes Back. But yeah, The Phantom Menace was there was pod racing, there was lightsaber fightings that was just fucking nuts.
What could be better?
So that's my favorite. Yeah, and Jar Jar, and I understand the gripe about Jar Jar and the midi-chlorians whole thing, because that's, anyway, we don't need to go on to that. What happened to my tooth is, one time I went live fairly recently, and someone asked me to do a backflip, and I did, and it didn't go very well. I ended up landing on my face and broke a tooth. Yeah.
Somebody in the YouTube chat, Correa, asked me what my degree is in, and my degrees are in economics and political science. I double majored in college because I hate myself, and yeah, I don't have a degree in theology. I have been thinking about going back to do a master's in it, but as of right now, I'm just a big nerd that reads a lot.
I've been thinking very strongly about doing that. I went in. I started my graduate work, and the first class you have to take is how to do online courses, and you had to interact in a chat group of your classmates 2 times a week, and it's fucking weird.
Yeah.
I was just give me the assignment, give me the research, I'll do that. I don't want to interact with my classmates. Fuck them. I don't what does that benefit me?
People in real life or online.
Yeah, fuck that. People are the worst. Why would I want to? But that was more crime. Favorite. Well, Spartan asks favorite Old Testament book. I really like Ecclesiastes, actually.
Oh yeah.
Yes, nothing new under the sun. There's very relevant information there.
Yeah. I mean, honestly, I think if I had to pick one, it'd be probably Esther. That was my favorite book for a long time, just because it was finally something in the Bible about a woman who did something.
Yeah, they made a whole movie about her.
Yeah, they made a whole VeggieTales episode about it.
They did.
It was a pretty good one, to be honest. But yeah, overall, I guess also the Old Testament isn't really my jam. I've been learning a lot more about it recently and studying it more in depth recently, but I didn't even like the Old Testament when I was a Christian. So I
Oh,
don't know.
not many people do.
Yeah, I was like boring.
Yeah, I don't know. I definitely prefer the New Testament to the Old Testament, but like the church I was raised in did not shy away from the Old Testament because they believed the Old Testament tied in with the New Testament. The Old Testament fulfilled the prophecies of the New Testament, so you had to learn about the Old Testament.
Yeah.
So I was in like discipleship classes where like we met each week at church, and you had to read like 3 chapters of fucking Numbers.
Yeah, you're like, let's read this chronology. It's going to be so fascinating.
Great, so and so begat so and so, and then that person begat. Yes.
Yeah.
Okay. Favorite one of Paul's letters,
I
Romans.
don't like Paul.
You don't like Paul?
I don't know. Paul seems to hate sex. That's like my opinion on Paul.
I think Paul. Okay, hold on. I think Paul is asexual. So I went to 3 different Bible colleges. I went to one for a year. I went to another one for a year, and then I went to the one I graduated from 4 years after I got out of the military. The first one I went to, one of the head professors was celibate. He was a like 60-year-old virgin, and he claimed that he wanted to. He dedicated his life to Christ, and we all looked up to him like, "Oh, that's crazy." He forsook the pleasures of the flesh in order to get closer to God. And then I learned that asexuality is a thing,
Yeah.
which I didn't know before. And so that's all it was. And like, okay, Paul was like, I would prefer you all to not choose a wife like I did, but if your loins are burning, go ahead and get married. So I'm like, Paul was asexual.
Yeah.
Like he had no, it was easy for him to do that because he had no desire. He wasn't really sacrificing anything. It was natural to him.
I mean, the Pauline letters, I probably go with Romans. Maybe Hebrews.
Well, Paul probably didn't write Hebrews.
I thought this one. I thought we were talking about this the other day. That Hebrews was. No, never mind. I'm a liar. I'm a liar. Carry on. Because somebody was in my messages and they were like telling me like that we had misspoken, and I was like, okay, because we were talking about Pauline epistles, but then they later corrected themselves and said no, they were wrong.
Yeah, that
anyway,
happens.
We're going to default to Romans.
So many people on my TikTok live asking about my tooth. I think it's because they're down here. Like y'all can't see them, but they're down here, and so they can see my fucking missing tooth better than like my YouTube stream can. Yeah. Here's my tooth.
Put it on a necklace.
Yeah. I gotta schedule an appointment to get a cap put on it. Because they were concerned because the nerve was exposed. So they were like, they're like, we need to take some time to decide if to give you a root canal or if we can just cap it. Because so they wanted to leave it alone. And they were like, if you have like headaches, problems sleeping, then that means we need to have a root canal. If you don't have any of those problems, then we can just cap it. So I haven't had any of those problems. So they can just cap it. I just need to fucking make that.
Yeah, do that.
That appointment. I need to be an adult, and I hate being an adult.
Oh, I'm the worst at being an adult.
I am talking to Jessica, aka M0ther0fD0gs.
Some internet hussy. So this isn't a question anybody asked, but I'm just going to talk about it anyway. So I recently did I did a 3-minute video on like the origins of the Christian idea of hell. And I am planning another video to sort of talk about the sheep and the goats parable. I believe it's in Matthew? I have to double check. Because a lot of people default to this as being like, oh, well, he describes, flames and eternal punishment and all of that. And something that I sort of unearthed today in my research that I found really interesting, and it's like very clear now that I've read it somewhere, was that the stories in the Gospels, most scholars believe are kind of standalones, and they were circulating independently before they were put into a continuous narrative. And so the earlier part of that chapter, I believe it's in Matthew, the earlier part of that chapter, really isn't has anything to do with the second part of the chapter. And so the first part of the chapter had its own pretext, its own prehistory, and its own sort of tradition. And then the second part did as well. And then when the gospel writers decided to put them all together, they attached these two things and made them like one continuous story. And I didn't know that these sort of stories were all standalone, but it makes perfect sense. I just thought that was interesting.
Spartan Theology says that there's that parable is not about hell at all.
No, it's not.
Yeah.
But I would love
there aren't really any parables about hell.
No, because at that point nobody had a concept of hell.
Yeah, it was completely foreign.
Right. It wouldn't in first century Palestine there was absolutely no concept of eternal conscious punishment.
Mm-hmm.
It just didn't exist. Yeah, it just didn't exist. And I think people really like forget that, and they're like, oh, well, look at this thing. This means what I think it means. And it's like, no, you think it means that because we have a concept of hell that they did not have in the first century.
Very accurate. I need to use the bathroom real quick. I'll be right back.
I'll be here.
Sorry, guys. Hold the fort for me, Jess.
Yeah, I'll hold it. An internet courtesan, that's me. Spartan Theology, I would love any scholarly work that you have that you would like to send my way. I have some, but I spend all of my free time reading and researching. Hey, Natalie. You're probably saying hi to Dadpool, but it's cool. He's in the bathroom, so I'm just gonna. Yeah, there's 4 words. So we have in the Old Testament we have Sheol. I'm sure we have other ones. I believe we have like Tartarus, but the Tartar something or other. And then we have what is it? I was just looking at these today. The Valley of Hinnom, and I think we also have a version of Hades.
All right, I'm back to save the day.
What
a miss.
Oh, just me mumbling about hell.
What the fuck? Hold on. I have some technical difficulties.
There we go. You're good. Sheol, Hades, Tartarus, and Gehenna. That's what I thought. Yeah.
What is happening here? My cords are all fucking weird.
What's going on, noob?
Can you hear me?
Yes, I can hear you now.
All right, my cord was all tangled around my chair, and I had to unplug it.
God damn it.
Anyway, so what I miss?
Us discussing hell, basically.
Yeah. Yeah, hell.
Hell.
Hey, Britt and I. And Natty Nat's in here. Yeah, Natty has been here for a minute. Various ideas in Palestine were fused with the Persian concept of molten metal punishment, as they were eventually became the Christian idea of eternal punishment. Yeah, that I've heard that too. The weird thing about hell, as well as Satan, is it comes from. It doesn't really come from one source. It's kind of a spider web. Like so when everyone's like, "Hey, where did the devil come from?" Or where did the concept of the devil come from? Like, oh shit. There's like 30 different like avenues that came to this. Like it's not like a one line. It's like a fucking spider web. The same thing with hell. Hell came from like all these different sources and myths and legends. But I like to say that where it kind of bottlenecks, I guess, into the is probably Emperor Constantine, because he was a huge Greek mythology nerd. He was obsessed with Greek mythology. He believed that like superior culture would mimic that of ancient Greece.
Yeah, well, that's very much a product of Alexander the Great.
Is it what I say? Yeah, Alexander the Great.
No, yeah. Not that I didn't say you were wrong. Just that it was very much a product of Alexander the Great's Hellenization of the entire Mediterranean.
Exactly.
And so as those became like more, those ideas became more ingrained over decades and decades, they also sort of grew in grandiosity, I think, for lack of a better term. And then also at the same time, we have, I mean, you're exactly right on. I just interrupted you because I'm rude and have ADHD. But
oh, you're fine. Go for it. I have ADHD too, so real recognize real.
Just interrupt me because I'm like, oh, I have an idea. Let me get it out right now. But so there's this, again, confluence, dovetail, whatever, of this sort of increasing grandiosity of Greek mythology and this idea that Greek beliefs are better and superior, and they were very much of the elite class, and so everyone's competing to see who can be like more elite. And then we also have Plato's idea that the soul is eternal and that the soul and the body are separate, which was not a Jewish belief. So Jews, as far as my knowledge is, believed that like your soul, for lack of a better term, was just what animated your body while you were alive, and it was like the breath that God breathed into you, but then when you died, you died. And even in the Old Testament, when was it Samuel that got called back from the dead by Saul?
Yes.
He comes up from the grave.
By like a soothsayer or whatever that was.
Exactly. It's not that his soul has been like, you know, he's not coming down in a spiritual form. Like,
and he was mad about it. He was like, why did you wake me from my sleep?
Yeah, exactly. Why did you wake me? And he was in his bodily form, which very much fits in with the idea that the Jews had that there would be a bodily resurrection. I mean, that comes later, but like you see this progression. And so as you sort of get these teachings of Jesus, that, you know, the end is coming soon and all this stuff, and then you have these Platonian ideas of the soul being eternal and the soul being separate, those start to merge. And then you have also merger, I don't know, I keep using the same words, but where we have this horizontal dualism of like, okay, we have this age and then we have the age to come, and the age to come is going to be like God's kingdom on earth, and this present age is horrible and bad and terrible. And over time, and with this merger of these other two beliefs, we start to shift into a vertical dualism where, you know, up is the kingdom of God and is good and all of these things, and then down below is where the bad is. And that's a very broad sort of brush, but you can see how all these pieces start to fit together to become this notion of eternal punishment or eternal reward when this kingdom that's supposed to be on earth doesn't actually happen, and they come to a more sort of, I don't want to say spiritual, but I guess maybe like mystical understanding. It's no longer this bodily resurrection and this bodily experience. It's an experience that your soul is going to have, and that's a very, very Platonian idea.
Yeah.
Okay. Anyway. Sorry.
I wanted to address this. So I thought you finally had Shannon Q on the line. Shannon Q was a guest a couple of weeks ago on the show. So yeah, and that was a very fun conversation that I had with her. It was just me and her. So yeah, go check that out.
Fan fiction of hell. That's funny.
Well, and that's kind of true because again, Emperor Constantine, like he was obsessed with Greek mythology, but he didn't know the Greek language, so he equated hell with Tartarus in Greek mythology, which housed the Titans and the absolute worst of the criminals. And it kind of went from there, and then you had like the most obvious example is the Inferno by Dante Alighieri, and then you had Paradise Lost as well. So there's all these fan fictions
You had the Gospel of Peter.
Oh yeah, and Enoch.
Mm-hmm.
Enoch had a lot to say about hell too.
If I'm not mistaken, the Gospel of Peter is like our first guided tour of hell, and Dante actually bases. I don't want to say like fully bases, but it definitely uses the Apocalypse of Peter as a reference.
I'd have to look into that. I'm not sure. You might be right though.
Well, if Bart Ehrman is right, I'm right.
Oh well.
Because I just read his stuff today, so he could be wrong, but that's where I'm pulling that from because I was reading about it.
Yeah, that's fine. I would love to get Dave Warnock back. Oh yeah, I would too. Dave is good people.
And Genevieve, we love Genevieve.
And Genevieve is good people. She came over to my house a few weeks ago, and she had dinner with us. I made her a fancy dinner. Not trying to flex or anything. It's not that big of a deal, but yeah, she came over. Yeah.
You're ridiculous.
And I'd invite her over again, but because she lives fairly close to us, but she's in fucking Texas now.
Austin, at some like bougie ass house.
Yeah, that's some bullshit. Which is where I'm from. I was
born from Austin.
No, Killeen, Texas. My dad was military. Hey, speaking of fucking Dave Warnock, he's in my TikTok live.
What's up?
I just joined. Yeah, hey Dave. Someone said in the comments on the YouTube show, you should have Dave back on. He was great. And I was like, yeah, I should. And then I looked down and like, there you fucking are. Like, hey, ask and you shall receive. You have not because you ask not. Yeah, so maybe I'll have Dave back on the show one day. It was Correa. Good suggestion. When am I getting the tooth capped? As soon as I schedule the appointment.
I feel like
everyone's worried about my tooth. It's because they can see it down there. Well, yeah, like they can see way better. Yeah. Yeah, I'll be getting a cap soon, and I'll have an actual tooth replacing that. Anyway. You guys cooked vegan. How was that? Yes, we did cook vegan because but she still eats seafood.
No, that's Carissa.
Yeah, but she was talking about when we had Genevieve on. No, that was Carissa. Okay.
Carissa is a dirty vegan.
Yeah, what did we make for Genevieve?
Dairy and seafood. We made Chinese. Like we made homemade Chinese without
homemade stir fried. Yeah. Okay. Yeah.
Well, when I come over for dinner, I'm a vegetarian.
All of you are. Yeah, that's cool.
We didn't collaborate or anything.
I'll accommodate you. It's fine. Anyway, I prayed and David turned up. Dragon said I ran into Dave in my favorite coffee shop the other day. No shit, really? I looked up and he was sitting at the next table. Oh, that must have been a weird fucking moment. Just look up and there's fucking Dave Warnock at another table. That must have been.
What's up, my guy? How do we handle biblical criticism from folks? Is that what it said? Sorry. How do you handle criticism from people who won't take you seriously because you're not Bible scholars? Well, technically, Captain Dabble has to agree.
I am a Bible scholar.
Yeah. I just challenge them to disprove any of my points using scholarly work, because these are the same people that say that you can read the Bible and understand what it's trying to say, and any Tom, Dick, or Harry is qualified to read the Bible, apparently, but I'm not qualified to discuss the Bible because I've researched it. Like, I don't know.
Weird.
I don't suffer fools particularly well.
What are the earliest Gnostic Gospels that exist? The earliest Gnostic Gospel is probably the Gospel of Thomas. Would you agree?
Yeah, so I'm doing this on my phone, but I just screenshotted this entire like timeline and list of like all the Gospels that we have or know of, all the apocalypses that we have or know of. But I think you're right that it's the Gospel of Thomas, but when I'm not on my phone, I'll check.
It's weird because the Gospel of Thomas has a lot of the same elements that you can find in the Synoptic Gospels.
Yeah.
But the very last verse, it goes fucking
way off the tracks.
Because it's like his disciples are like, Mary is a woman. She can't enter into heaven because she's a woman. What do we do? And then Jesus goes, okay, I'll make her a man so that she can enter into heaven.
Yeah.
And it's weird as shit. Like everything else in the entire Gospel of Thomas, like that checks out. That lines up with what's in Matthew, Mark, Luke, John.
Yeah.
And then there's at the very last verse is this thing, and it's fucking weird. It throws everything off, and I don't know what to make about that.
Have you read the book Lost Christianities?
No, by who?
Bart Ehrman, which I sound like a fangirl, but it just happens that I'm...
No, me too. I haven't heard it. I'm a huge fangirl for Bart Ehrman.
Yeah, like I love him primarily because he puts things in languages, like in a language that everyone can understand, even if they're not a scholar.
He doesn't speak over anyone's head.
Yes, and I think that's been severely lacking in sort of popular discourse. But anyway, this book, Lost Christianities, kind of discusses in more detail, or I guess not in more detail, it is a synopsis of his...
Oh, there we go.
I guess it's the the textbook that I'm about to buy because I'm a loser, called The Orthodox Corruption of Scripture, I believe. And so this version, this Lost Christianities, is basically that scholarly work, but in like everyday terms. But it discusses how we sort of got the canon that we have currently, and not just how someone decided like, okay, these books are in the canon, but how and why other books were deemed heretical, and what was ultimately decided to be orthodox, or in this case, proto-orthodox, because we didn't have a canon yet. And it's super interesting because, and I'm sure people already know this, but so much of how we got what we have now is just by some bishop saying, yeah, well, that doesn't agree with what I think, so we're just going to kick it out. Don't use that. You can't use it anymore. So yeah, anyway.
Yeah. Where are we at? Jesse Alexander has many PhDs and indoctrinates and unintentionally speak at a level that layman doesn't understand them. Yeah, that's fair.
I mean, you spend all of your time talking to other scholars or to grad students, and like your entire job is just to sound smart.
Well, that's kind of like I had a favorite professor in college. His name was Dr. Marino. And I have a couple of people who follow me who have been to Valley Forge or the college I went to. They knew who he is. He's a brilliant person, but very weird at the same time. He got his graduate degree in biblical theology, and he has 3 master's degrees, and pretty much all of them he got while he was just coked out on drugs. like he's off. off his rocker, but he would get like surprise degrees in the mail. He's like, "Oh, you have a degree in this now." He's like, "Oh, I had no idea," because he did so many courses so many times, and he would just get these surprise degrees. And so he was a very brilliant person, someone that I looked up to spiritually as a Christian. And
Wait,
obviously,
he was a coked out Christian?
yeah, absolutely, yeah, he was. Maybe not coke, but definitely the Mary Jane.
Well.
And there's so much. I don't want to put his whole story on blast, but he has a crazy fucking story about marrying a student and having a kid with a student and all that. But nonetheless, he was my favorite professor. He was fucking brilliant. So it just goes to show that there are people who are somehow capable of ignoring certain things or being able to justify certain things in order to get them to reconcile what they believe.
Oh yeah,
I was not able to do that.
Yeah,
you know, like people will learn, hey, the Gospels were written anonymously, and a lot of people will be like, okay, that's cool. That doesn't bother me. That fucking bothered me. That bothered me a lot.
That was like a major turning point for me, and being like, you really want me to believe that a man raised from the dead and then floated up to heaven, and the only like reference that I have are these 4 Gospels, and I don't even know who wrote them, and the people that wrote them weren't even there, most likely. Like, how am I supposed to believe that? Like, I wouldn't accept. It's terrible evidence. I wouldn't believe it for anything else. Even big mundane stuff, it would be like, how can you count on that, let alone something miraculous?
Yeah, it's pretty crazy. Anyway, what other questions you guys have? Yeah. So Jess, you and I have been we've both been reading a lot of the works of Dr. Bart Ehrman recently.
Yeah.
Where are you at currently with that?
With like, what am I reading of his, or like?
Yeah. Or what is like, what have you read of his that has like challenged your way of thinking?
Well, at this point, I feel like a Bart Ehrman stan, to be honest. So, like, at the very beginning, when I was reading all of his stuff, everything was like a new and challenging thing to me. Recently I reread Heaven and Hell, which I loved, and that shed light on a lot of things for me. I don't know. You mean this one? Yeah, it's on my desk up there. I love it so much.
It's within arm's reach.
Right next to Carrier's The Historicity of Jesus.
Yep, that's over there too.
It's literally we have the same bookshelf.
Sounds like it.
So I think like his explanation on the different words for hell and how ancient Israelites would have understood all of that was really eye-opening and interesting to me. I think though right now it's like I'm in a place where I try to be pretty open to new information so long as there's scholarship to back it up. So I don't know like if I necessarily feel challenged by what I'm reading, but I definitely feel like it's expanding my understanding of first century Palestine and Judea and the culture and just, all of the above. And I'm also reading The Lost Christianities, which I'm finding really fascinating because there's a bunch of things that I forgot about. For instance, how we got the Latin Vulgate, and then like what process went into that, and then even the King James translation and what went into that. Because I'm gonna do a bit on the fact that King James was bisexual. Because someone asked about it. But anyway, so that's what I've sort of been into, and also taking that course on early church history. So from the crucifixion to Constantine, which I know we're both doing, but I think you're just further ahead than I am.
Yeah, it's a little bit. I think I'm on lecture 14 at the moment.
Yeah, I'm not there yet.
No.
What led me to deconvert?
People on TikTok.
How did the Rapture teaching come about? One guy named Darby, well, his last name is Darby, who are you familiar with this? His name's John Nelson Darby, I believe.
Yeah, I've heard of this too, but I've also heard of like a like 14-year-old Scottish girl.
Yeah. So I thought that was the thing too, and then I was reading somewhere. I was reading somewhere that wasn't the case, but I have to double check. I have my computer out because I want to make sure take a look at my notes and see what I
very good
wrote about it. Oh no, not this.
Yeah, I always thought that sounded like oddly.
Yeah, I do think it's an idea that's sort
specific.
of
I don't know.
up around it. Yeah. Let's see.
Because listen, atheists are full of shit too. They really are.
Oh yeah, totally.
So I take pride in the fact that I have more atheists blocked on my TikTok account than I have Christians, Muslims, anything else.
Oh my god, I have people coming to my page to be like, so and so blocked me. Like, sir, I do not care.
Yeah,
like,
right.
Atheist, like, I don't care.
Yeah,
Did you deserve it?
There are plenty of atheists out there who are pieces of shit, and I don't want it to have any affiliation with.
Yeah.
Good night, dear. I love you.
Good night, dear. I love you.
She just disappeared and took a cat with her. Anyway.
Culminating Christ's second coming.
It is Mother of Dogs. Someone asked, is that Mother of Dogs' voice?
C'est moi.
It is indeed the very same.
Who asked?
I thought. Sorry. Keep going. Did you have?
Oh no, you're good. I was just reading here. The rapture theory grew out of translations of the Bible that John Nelson Darby analyzed in 1833. So there's a whole bunch we could say about that, but that's where it originated. So prior to 1833, nobody would have had any fucking idea what you were talking about if you were trying to discuss the rapture. And I think that there is lore built up around it that girl had a vision, but I think that might be more just sort of, like I said, more lore or more legend than fact, but I'll double check. But definitely originated with John Nelson Darby, and it's also based off two very tenuous verses, and the arguments are pretty faulty. Like, any actual scholars don't really. I think it's the verb to be like caught up in the air, means something different when read in the like original, which is not surprising at all. But yeah. Anyway.
Gray asks, are there any cults, either current or throughout history, which have really fascinated you?
Heaven's Gate cult.
Yeah, I was about to say something. Or is it Heaven's Gate or the Halley's Comet? Which was the one that they fed their children, their babies, poison.
I think it might have been Halley's Comet, because Heaven's Gate was like...
It was one of those two.
Yeah, Heaven's Gate was like, they had all of these people, and basically they became like very androgynous. They shaved their heads. They all wore like the same color. And they thought that they were going to basically get on a rocket ship and like go. Yeah. HBO Max did a really interesting documentary on it. I was enthralled. And then they all committed mass suicide, basically, thinking that they'd go on like a spiritual rocket ship. So, you know.
Yeah, that's one thing I like to bring up when Christians are like the earliest disciples, like they endured persecution and martyrdom. That's evidence that what they say is true. Like one, we don't have any evidence of that. Yeah, there's nothing like there's evidence that Paul and Peter died the death of martyrs.
Yeah, but even that is pretty tenuous, isn't it?
Yeah, because there's no details around it. It's written by Clement of Rome, who just mentioned casually that they died. So we don't have any of that. However, we have the Haley's Comet cult, who again, mothers fed their baby children poison in order to kill them. So that's way more dedicated than anything the early Christians did.
Yeah.
So get fucked. Anyway.
Get fucked. Eat my ass. Yeah.
Eat my ass.
Yeah, that is one of my least favorite arguments, because I'm like, if people suffer and die all the time for stuff they believe in, like dumb stuff even, I don't understand why. I don't even understand why people think that's a good argument at this point, considering we have suicide bombers and we have Jonestown, we have Heaven State, we have.
It's all they have. Waco. They have to cling to what little they have.
Yeah, fair enough. Yeah, fair enough.
You know, like all their arguments just crumble in front of them, so that they have to I don't know what it is. I really don't.
Yeah. I think they're grabbing onto these sort of unprovable ideas, or emotion. It's like an appeal to emotion. Like, well, would they have done this if they, really didn't believe? And I'm like, I'm not arguing that they didn't believe. I'm arguing that they didn't believe in something that actually happened.
Sorry, just trying to figure out how to manage my stream here. I need to use the bathroom again.
You're good.
When are you debating modern Bushman? Okay, so here's the thing with him. I've been DMing him for the past 3 days.
He's been DMing you for the past 3 days.
He's a very chatty Cathy. I super regret challenging him to a debate, because he over the past 3 days, he's sent me 40, 50 DMs, and I've sent him 3 or 4 DMs in response. All my responses have been referring to the format, the topic, how, and he just fucking rambles for paragraphs upon paragraphs. I'm like, dude, I'm regretting challenging you to debate. I really.
Is he even gonna hold to the time limits?
I don't know. He's still willing to I was like, hey, I have this group called the Atheist Network Group. They host debates between Christians and theists, or Christians and atheists, fairly regularly. They've even given the victory to the Christians a few times. So this is a very good place that we can do that. And he was like, okay, cool. Well, blah, blah, blah. And I have 13 unread messages from him. I'm like, oh, okay.
Sounds promising.
Oh, okay. I don't know what to do here.
Say you rescind.
Yeah, I'm at this point. I'm like, you win the debate. You destroyed me. I have no leg to stand on after your position. You win. You win the internet. Go away. Take your victory and go away.
Yeah, take your victory and go away. Tell whoever you want, just never message me again.
Hey,
I don't know. The fact that his name is Modern Bushman, I feel was probably the first red flag.
The thing is, he's a nice guy. Everything he's messaged me has been very different from what you see on TikTok. On TikTok, he seems like this very aggressive fundamentalist Christian, but in the DMs, he's very easygoing, because he's a retired leather worker, and he was like, "Hey, at the end of this debate, I'll make you a knife sheath." Oh, that's cool. Just so he's very different, and I don't fucking know what to make of it.
a lot of people sort of have a persona for TikTok.
Yeah. Oh, me too.
Yeah, you certainly can't have like a lot of nuance in like a 1-minute video.
Yeah, super. All right, I'll be right back. I gotta use the
all right, everyone.
The little atheist room again. We're back.
Currently debating himself for challenging a person who talks a lot. Yeah, I'm not much for debates. I get irritated with people too easily. Oh God, yes, like Sanctified leaves comments. I swear I blocked that person like my 3rd day on TikTok. Like, I was like, sir, you have to go. You don't have to go home, but you got to get the hell out of my account. Yeah, I think for me, like, I understand why people debate. I'm glad people like to do it, but I don't want to be adversarial. I would prefer to have sort of a open exchange of communication where neither one of us necessarily needs to win. You can present your information, your sources, your whatever. I will present mine. We can talk. We can sort of go back and forth, but I just don't want to be trying to win anything. Yeah, just not my style.
Okay, unmute. All right, I'm back.
You're back.
Yeah, Eddie from the BruteFacts fuck, words are hard sometimes. Eddie from the BruteFacts podcast has joined us.
What's up, Eddie? I watched y'all's show when you interviewed Richard Carrier.
Yeah, and he has Robert Price, or was that earlier today? Eddie, did you have him on earlier today? I feel like that was the case. Bye, dragons. Thanks for joining in. I appreciate it.
Thanks for being here.
Yeah, I had Ooh, those are cute. Is that $22 each?
No, for a 3-set.
So low. Anyway, yeah, I thought like Eddie's interview with Robert Price was earlier today, but it was the time that I have 4 kids and I took them to soccer practice during that time, so I missed it completely.
Yeah.
Put that up.
Hit the like button or Yahweh will turn your life into a pill of salt. Like a Lot's wife.
Joke's on you, I don't have a wife.
Yeah, God turned Lot's wife into a pillar of salt just because she looked behind her.
Because he loved her so much.
Yeah, he had compassion.
He turned her into a pillar of salt.
Like, he was sending flaming meteors upon Sodom and Gomorrah. Like, blowing that shit up. And while running...
And then he turned her into a human horseman.
But that meant she didn't have any faith. So he turned her into a pillar of salt for all eternity.
She was just, like, trying not to get hit by a fiery meteor.
Jackal Twinkie said, my wife is already super salty with me. What flavor? Is it like sea salt? Is it pink Himalayan salt? What?
Dead sea salt.
Dead sea salt.
Dead sea salt.
Anyway.
Let's see. They had lots of tequila and needed lots of salt. Amen.
When do we not need lots of tequila?
Yeah. I have taken a break from drinking, and it's the worst decision I've ever made, so...
Yeah, I'm trying to rein in my drinking. It's not necessarily that the drinking is the problem, it's that the lack of sleep as a result of the drinking has become a problem. So I'm like...
Is it just from the drinking is that it's being caused, or is it like, it's I mean, you have insomnia, right?
Yeah, I have insomnia and I have PTSD and I have nightmares, and it's just this like barrage of possibilities. I'm like, I don't know what to do in order to give me a good night's sleep.
Fair enough, yeah. Hey Pete, what's up? Have there been any repercussions for you two after appearing in the religion news article? Just the mockery
Not
of my
yet.
friends.
Yeah, I haven't yet.
I mean, not really. There are some funny comments under the article that, like, on the actual website, but I knew there would be because it's a religious news outlet and it's a bunch of atheists shitting on religion, basically. So, like, of course they're not gonna love it.
Yeah, I had an interview with her today.
Yeah, awesome.
Yeah, she reached out to me. Was like, "Hey, I'd love to just like interview you 101."
Yeah.
I was like, "Sure." And she was like, 4:00 today, and I was like,
No.
"Yeah, I'm good with that." And so she was like, "Next week, I should have an article published, just like following up, and specifically about you." I was like, "Cool. I hope you don't make me look like an asshole."
Yeah, she's really nice. I mean, when I talked to her, she asked like, "Oh, who are your favorite TikTokers?" And I was like, "You should check out Captain Dadpool." And then she was like, "Who?" And I was like, "I know he's not that well known, but
You've never heard of me?
you've never known."
Oh man.
Yeah. I told her to check out Biddy Buddha, but I guess I don't know, maybe she did.
I'm surprised that she didn't mention Betty Buddha. And did she?
I don't know. No, she didn't. And I definitely mentioned her to. I definitely mentioned Buddha to Renee.
That's okay because shit. Spoiler alert: Betty Buddha and myself are going to be on August's episode of Apologia's Ham and Eggs.
Very cool.
So yeah, she and I are going to be, and he's going to animate us just like he does himself and every other guest. And yeah, that's going to be fun. Should happen sometime mid to late August.
That's exciting.
I've already started watching like episodes of Answers in Genesis News, and I wanted to put a hole through my monitor because of the dumb shit that.
But when you guys were talking about it, I was like, why are they doing this to themselves? Like, why are they watching Answers in Genesis videos? These are literally, like, it makes me want to kill myself because it's
that's why, because Apologia wants us to cover an episode for him, which I love. I'm very excited to do that, but I watched the episode like, this makes me want to punch babies. just the most racist, ignorant shit that they said in the one episode, the most recent episode that I watched. I was just like,
yeah. It's actually mind-blowing to me sometimes that fully formed adults believe the nonsense that comes out of these people's mouth hole. Like,
and they're so unapologetic about it. Like they claim expertise over any expert in that field. So they talked about carbon dating. And like, yeah, carbon dating dates this to 51,000 years, but carbon dating isn't super accurate, so it's not reliable.
Like, according to who?
Yeah, so they're just like, boom. They claim like totalitarian authoritative knowledge over fucking carbon dating. Like, they don't know the first thing about carbon dating. They wouldn't know where to start.
Wrong.
Yeah. They wouldn't know the first step in carbon dating, but they're going to sit there and be like, it's not reliable because sometimes it's slightly inaccurate.
Well, if you look at any of so when I was doing some stuff on Noah's Ark, I went to Answers in Genesis because I was like, I'm going to source this from a very Christian place. But I was reading through some of their articles, which made me want to, but they end all of them with like, well, basically, regardless of the evidence, God gave us scripture, which is inerrant and true. So it doesn't really matter what the evidence says because the Bible's true. Okay. Like, yeah, I grew up around a lot of like shitty apologists who really thought they were like doing something. And one of them also was like an amateur archaeologist. And so he, I don't know, was always trying to show me random fossils. that like proved evolution wasn't true, and like why do you have these fossils and not, you know, like the Smithsonian? But yeah, it's really strange that the sort of mental gymnastics that Christians will do to believe absolute nonsense. Source me. I was a Christian doing mental gymnastics for absolute nonsense. But
Yeah, it's very discouraging because they have so many people convinced that like
yeah,
don't listen. They demonize scientists. They demonized archaeologists. They demonized geneticists, and they'd be like, they're wrong. They're wrong. They're wrong. They're wrong. Actual experts in these fields are wrong, but we're right because we have the inspiration of the Holy Spirit.
well, it's the same people that are like, oh, well, you need the Holy Spirit and able to properly understand Scripture. So it doesn't matter if you've literally spent your entire life studying it. If you don't have the
Yeah,
Holy Spirit, you can't possibly understand. But lucky for me, I have the Holy Spirit. So, like, I know perfectly what the Bible says and means without doing any additional research. Like,
yeah.
you really think that?
Which is insane because, again, this is how the church teaches Christians, or they're like, you have knowledge, wisdom, information that
Giftedness of
experts in
God.
those fields do not have
Yeah,
because you have the Holy Spirit.
yeah.
The Holy Spirit has given you divine revelation about all these things. And so what you believe is divinely inspired and is thus true.
Yeah.
The actual experts in these fields are wrong. They're corrupted by the
Deceived by
devil.
Satan. Yeah. Well,
So it's
that's the thing. That's the thing, right? Is that point right there is that they've convinced themselves and everybody else around them that anything that goes against the Bible or the Word of God is a tool of the devil in order to confuse, trick, deceive, whatever you want to call it. So they're gifted with the wisdom from God that helps them see through all of these lies and deceit and hold on to the truth. When in reality, that's just a cult tactic, right? Like create a false
yeah.
reality and then basically isolate folks from any opposing opinions or teach them that opposing opinions are intentionally harmful or deceitful. It's cult 101.
Yeah, exactly. It's crazy. Convince everyone that they have some sort of unique, divine, inspirational knowledge
Yep.
that experts in those fields do not have because they're atheist or agnostic.
Yeah.
But you automatically have knowledge that they don't.
Yeah. And it's like, why would God make this so hard? Like, if it's
Yeah,
true and he wants us all to go to heaven because he loves us so much, then like why make this all so difficult and why allow Satan to have so much power running rampant on the earth? Um, it's yeah, it's silly. It's silly, but I remember being in it and just being so terrified of, you know, the alternative of being wrong, of hell, of whatever, and thinking like, I mean, if you can instill that fear, especially in a child, and they grow up with it, like it's deep. So they don't. The critical thinking sort of goes out the window. I think it's. I was reading about this psychological phenomenon called defensive avoidance. Basically, if you can, this is especially with children, but it can also happen with adults, that if you can basically present them with a scenario in which the outcome is basically eternal, really severe, and can only be avoided by doing exactly what they say, they'll basically toss critical thinking skills out the window. Or if they haven't fully developed yet, they bypass them. And the older they get, it actually doesn't get better; it gets worse, which explains a lot. But
someone's asking, is Mod banned from TikTok Live? I have no
me?
idea. I have no
No.
idea. Oh, is that you, Mod? Mother? I guess that makes
M0ther0fD0gs.
sense.
Yeah, I don't know why. No, I don't
We're
think
not
so.
we're not dual living,
No.
just because we've tried that before with other hosts, and the sound is just a pain in the ass. We can never figure it out.
And I'm also using my phone to stream this, so and I
Just
don't even
totally
have it set up on my computer to go live. That's why I keep tapping my screen, because I'm toggling between the comments and the, my face basically.
So, hold on. Question for Jessica. Do you have any struggles with purity culture? How did you handle
boy.
that? That's a good question. Oh, boy. Indeed.
Oh. How long do we have? No, so, God. As I mentioned in some of my videos, like, purity culture and the sort of long-term effects that come with that have been very damaging, and I'm still undoing a lot of it, just for lack of that's the most straightforward answer. I was deeply indoctrinated in purity culture as a young girl and told basically that I needed to make sure that I was modest and covered everything so that my brothers in Christ weren't tempted by like my mosquito bites. And so I mean, like, I was like 10, bro. Like,
Self-diss. I like it.
like that guy is a pedophile if he's interested in me at 10 years old. But like, okay, whatever. Let's move on past that. And also like that, of course, my goal in life was to find a husband, and that was pretty much the extent of what my sort of value was to be a wife. I'm 32. I'm single. And I have spent a lot of time working to undo some of that, because even though like those points seem simplistic, when you really have internalized those things, they come out in a variety of ways. So shame about your body, shame about your sexuality, shame about feeling too much, feeling too little, expressing too much, being too loud, like not being feminine enough, not being demure enough, like all of these things. And to be perfectly frank, the way I have dealt with them is one at a time. And so, for me, like a couple years ago started doing like pole dancing classes. And
Did you? Are there any videos of this? Like,
I have taken them all down.
Research purposes only.
For research, I have some. I've taken them all down because I was like, I don't know. I didn't want to get banned on TikTok again. I do have some anyway. And I really like it, but it was very, very hard for me to get started because I had no idea how to be like present in my own body and to be sensual at all, even just like alone in a room with like my instructor. And so it takes a lot of conscious effort and like really checking in with myself all the time of like, why does this make me uncomfortable? And that's not just in that setting, but just like anywhere. Right. Like, why does it make me uncomfortable? Okay, well, is that related to shame? Why do I feel shame about some aspect of myself? Like, there's nothing wrong with me. I mean, there are things that are wrong with me, but like inherently, things that come naturally to you for the most part aren't bad or evil, but you have that sort of indoctrination to where you become like, oh, like I was attracted to someone, like I need to go like beat it out of myself with a whip, like
mm-hmm. Yeah.
So it's a lot of checking in, of being conscious of like where it's rooted. I have been in therapy for a really long time, and that comes up. And also, yeah, it's a lot of just stopping the thoughts, like being conscious that they come in and stopping them and saying like, that's something I learned, but it's not true. And how do I build a new way of thinking? Sometimes it's really small. It's just doing that and reminding myself, and then sometimes it's bigger, right? Like going to take a pole class for the first time. Yeah, I feel like I've said a whole bunch of things. I don't know if any of those things were helpful.
You're good. You're good. Yeah, I feel that too. Like I was discouraged from. How do we even fucking say this? I was very much led to be ashamed of my own like desires and nature, and I like cried and prayed for forgiveness because it was like this nature of me is evil because that's what the church taught me.
Yeah.
And now I realize, hey, it's a normal part of being human because we're fucking animals and we like sex.
Yeah.
It's just a natural part of who we are. There's nothing really sacred about it. It's just it's not as big of a deal as we were taught because we were taught, and you could probably relate to this. If you have a sexual relation with someone who is not meant by God to be your spouse, you are giving them a piece of your heart that was
you
meant
never get back.
That you can never get back, right?
Yeah.
And I remember distinctly the analogy of like a piece. You take a piece of paper and you glue it together, and then you try to separate it, and it would be ripped apart and would just be destroyed. You could never get it back to the way it originally was. And then you have a relationship with another person,
is that
and you glue it
powerful.
to another piece of paper, and it becomes more and more like fucked up. The more partners you have.
Yeah. I mean, I was taught growing up that you shouldn't even kiss someone before your wedding day.
Yeah, same here.
I was like, bitch, you want me to get in bed with someone for the first time after committing my entire life to them and not even know?
Did you ever do the seminar with oh my god, what was his name?
Joshua Harris.
Maybe.
He's on TikTok.
Really?
Howdy, Genevieve.
Hey, Genevieve. No, I went to a like weekend seminar with this guy who taught that generational curses were a thing. And if you had any sexual activity before marriage, that would solidify like generational curses. And then you would pass those generational curses on to your kids. If you were a child that was conceived out of wedlock, you were born with curses that other people wouldn't have been of, and then you pass those on to your children. And then just like, I remember freaking out, be like, oh my God, I was conceived out of wedlock. That means I'm cursed. I'm going to pass my curse on to my future children. Oh my God. And it's all fucking bullshit.
Yeah. I definitely heard similar things to that. And I'm like, I was born out of wedlock. I didn't ask for that. Yeah, it's real weird. And like, yeah, the whole thing is just really, really strange to me. I'm trying to think. I mean, I've talked a little bit about it today, but like, it just makes people hyper fixate on their bodies. And I mean, like, I don't know, I can't speak for men, but especially for women, it makes them hyper fixate on their bodies and like find their value and worth 100% in their bodies, which like ties directly into diet culture. And it's part of why I had an eating disorder growing up. Yeah, because it's like all I thought was like, oh, I need to be attractive and thin, but also I need to hide my body so that like someone's not attracted to me. But then at the same time, I like want them to be attracted to me. It's just like it's very weird and confusing, and it really separates you from what's natural to you.
Yeah.
And like even to this day, something else I've realized is that like I had so much anxiety around men because I was like constantly wondering if they were looking at me weird or if I wasn't covered enough or like, and because the way that at least my church taught it was like every guy you came in contact with, like you had to treat them. I mean, you didn't have to, but it was basically like they could be your future husband. So like, make sure you're always based on like your best, whatever. I don't know what the word is, but like, yeah, you're always guarding their hearts and you're always doing whatever. And like, and honestly, is that like even to this day, like I actually have a very hard time determining if someone is interested in me or not because like I feel like I just put on these like I don't know, maybe not blinders, but just like I built up walls around me so that like I wouldn't have to engage because I didn't know how to because I was so worried all the time about like men. And if I was doing something to them or they were doing something to me, like, and I didn't want to accidentally slip up and become damaged goods, and then like, now my husband's not gonna like me as much whenever I find him, and just it's a whole mess. that like I think people deal with for a long time. Some people, it takes longer, I suppose. But I definitely still see its effects, and like, yeah, I think it's fucked up my dating life. So,
A little bit.
yeah, just a little bit.
Yeah, fucked up mine. It's similar because like growing up, I was kind of, how do I say? I don't know if I have a unique perspective because I've always had a decent looking build. I was a martial artist, a wrestler, a weightlifter. I've always looked good without a shirt. All right, I'll just put it that way, as modestly as I can. A little bit. But because of that, and because of the lessons I learned about purity culture, I felt I never wanted to wear a tank top. Like I always have to wear a shirt over top of my tank top because I don't want to cause like women to lust after me, or because I thought that was a possibility. It was my responsibility to cover up myself because I look decent. And that's bullshit, obviously. But at the time, I didn't see it that way. I was like, I have to cover myself up.
Yeah.
You know,
I also think the idea of like lusting after someone is so funny. Like I had this idea in my head when I was younger that like lusting over someone was this whole like fixation, or just like they just thought about you all these ways. And like as an adult, I'm not sure I've ever lusted after anyone because I just have too many other things going on in my life. I might be like, oh, that guy's hot, and then I'm just like moving on with my day. I think that the Christian church is like the most hypersexualized group of people.
Oh yeah.
It's so weird. Genevieve and the skeptic talking about body dysmorphia. Yeah, that's the other thing.
I see that.
I developed pretty severe body dysmorphia, even to now. We're getting into the like stuff, but like when I look in the mirror, like I see different things day to day, and I do not see what other people see. And I think that's true for a lot of people, and so I'm talking about it because like if you had an eating disorder, or you had some kind of like anything around food or your body image, like that doesn't just go away because you fixed like, oh, I eat healthy now and like I eat enough calories so everything's better. Like I eat pretty good, I work out all the time, and I still see something different every time I look in the mirror, and I still don't see what anybody else sees. And I think that's a long-term effect of this like body hyperfixation that like people don't really talk about very much.
Yeah, I have a similar feeling. Like I used to be a competitive weightlifter. I used to be 30 pounds heavier than I am now, solid muscle. I used to be able to deadlift 500 pounds for reps of 3. I have videos of me picking up cars and pulling semi-trucks with a rope. Like I was bigger and much stronger than I am now, and because I went through like a huge bout of depression because of my deconstruction as well as my divorce. I just steadily lost weight, and I'm like 170 pounds as opposed to 120. And my girlfriend's like, she like oogles me, you know, every now and then. She's like, God damn, your arms look really good right now. I'm like, shut the fuck up. My arms are nothing like they used to be. Like I am a shadow of my former self, but that's my own problem. Like I can't.
Yeah, we think we're only accepting of love or attraction if we meet some impossible sort of standard that we've set. I mean, maybe for you when you were in that your weightlifting shape, you were thought like you were the hottest shit and you didn't really mind, and that's awesome if you did. But like, I don't think there's ever been a point in my life where I've thought like that I met the standard of being attractive. It just like constantly moves no matter where I am in my sort of journey. But, yeah,
I don't know. It's a strange perspective. Anyway, so what questions do we have? Let's keep moving. I won't stay on here too much longer because I'm getting tired. I want to go to bed. But
no worries.
But I definitely want to answer some more questions.
You want to know what kind of martial arts you did? Give the people what they want.
I did. I have a black belt in Hapkido.
A black belt? Is that the one with all the like the throws and stuff?
Hapkido, yeah. So Hapkido is kind of it's Aikido, which is
Oh,
most famous person or most famous practitioner of that is Steven Seagal. Steven Seagal is a master of Aikido. Aikido, the grandmaster of Hapkido, which is Grandmaster Jihan Jay, which was features in a Game of Death that he fought Bruce Lee. Anyway, he wanted to combine Aikido grapplings and locks and ground fighting with kung fu kicks and Taekwondo kicks and kung fu pressure point techniques. Anyway, he kind of created this whole this sort of hodgepodge of different styles, and then it's came out to be Hapkido, and that's what I have a.
very cool. I think one of my exes did Hapkido.
I also did Wing Chun, which is the only formal style that Bruce Lee was trained in.
Yeah,
it's
Fu, right?
It was he coined it as Jeet Kune Do, but it was
that's right.
Yeah, it was wow, my brain completely spaced. Wing Chun, there it is, Wing Chun.
Okay.
So it's a very unique style. I was training that, and I did a little bit of Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu, and then I went to the military, which used combatives, which is based off of Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu. So yeah, I have all that to say. I have a long background in that type of stuff.
Very cool.
I haven't been involved in it for a long time, but at one point in my life, I was the shit in it. Or just suffice it to say that I had trophies. I had yeah. Not anymore. Now I'm an old man, but back then I was a shit.
I was a shit.
I was a shit. Anyway.
I was a piece of shit.
Dude, the number of people asking what happened to my tooth and my
just make a TikTok about it and then just send everybody.
I made a couple.
Oh, did you?
Then just they can see it. Page. Yeah,
just but they fuck with them and be like, "What do you mean? Which tooth? Oh. What?
Yeah, what's? I'm missing a tooth. What are y'all talking about?
I gotta go. I gotta go right now.
Yeah, let me go check the mirror. Anyway, how did we even get on that topic? All right.
I don't even. This is my first show. I'm just talking.
So purity culture, yeah, purity culture.
Bro, purity culture is some horse shit. That's all I have to say. I tell all of the people at my old church whenever I can that I now shake my ass for fun. So yeah, fuck purity culture. That's how I feel about that.
Yeah, I didn't lose my virginity until I was 22 years old.
I think I was
because of purity culture, and I had offers. I had a lot of offers. I was a good looking teenager.
I had offers.
I had offers. I had one girl who was in my photography class. She literally handed me a cherry flavored condom. All right. And she wanted me to meet her in the baseball dugout in the baseball field. That is a true story. I told her no. And to this day, I want to go back in time and kick my little 17-year-old self in the fucking jaw and be like, no, you fucking go rail that shit.
Yeah, I mean, I don't know if you're losing your virginity to be railing anyone, but maybe.
Yeah, I know. But at the time, I was like, "No, I'm a good Christian boy. Sorry." Like I gave it back to her. I was like, "Sorry, I can't do that. I'm a man of God." And now I'm like, God damn, I missed out on so many opportunities.
Okay, well, I mean, so the first guy I ever dated was like my first love. He was head over heels for me, and honestly, is who I should have lost my virginity to. But I was like, I have to wait till marriage. And then we ended up breaking up, and I ended up losing my virginity to some fucking asshat because I was just like over it. And then like I immediately left, and was like, went to a party and was like, who wants to take shots? And then he like called me like, are you coming back? Like, no. Sorry.
It's all good. Safe space here.
Yeah, but well, no, I just mean like to him. I was like, yeah, I'm not coming back, but I guess thanks. It wasn't fun. So yeah, thanks to Jesus, I did not lose my virginity to somebody I actually loved, which was the entire point of them preaching that at me.
Yeah. See, I've only been with 2 different women, and I'm 35. I'm about to turn 35. 2, literally 2.
Yeah, I'm
one was my ex-wife now of 9 years, and then with Rachel over here.
Oh my God, you guys had sex? Just kidding.
Yeah, right. But the weird thing is like, because I was brought up in that, like when I started like getting with her, and she was like, "Oh, this is my body count," blah, and I was like, I had a hard time not judging her for that.
Yeah.
And it was only in the single digits. She doesn't have like a huge body count, but it was more than mine.
I feel like,
and I was like, "Oh, you've hooked up with this many people that you weren't married to? What?" And then I realized that's the Christian indoctrination that has taught me to judge people for exploring their own sexuality, and like that's against our own nature. It's fucking nuts, and that's what the church teaches you, to rebel against your own human nature and consider it sinful and evil and just continue to hell and blah 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 blah. Yeah, I got a lot of confessions in the comments right now. I appreciate
seeing all these like, I'm old, everyone's older than you apparently. Yeah, this conversation is teaching me that I'm just a hoe. So
I think I wish I was a hoe. I wish I had hoed out, at some point. I could still.
No, I mean, I don't really think that. It's just funny because honestly, like if someone asked me like, what's your body count? I would be like, I don't know. I'd really have to go think about it. But there was certainly a time where I was like keeping track. Like, okay, no, like, I don't fucking know. Like, I can't. Like, was it even memorable? Does that count if it wasn't memorable? I don't know. Anyway.
Yeah, what's this? Yeah, see, I have 2. 2 is my number. That's it.
Oh, well. All I'm saying is y'all should go have a hoe phase. Have a hoe phase.
Yeah. See, I've had so many people that have been like, "Oh, you didn't miss anything." I'm like, that's easy for you to fucking say.
Yeah, I mean, yes and no. I've certainly had a number of like lackluster sexual experiences. But at the same time, it's like, yeah, I don't know. I think there's a lot to be said for what you learn from sleeping with a variety of people. I mean that everybody has to do it, but like, yeah, I don't know.
And I can't tell you how many stories I've heard of like women, especially, who did wait until marriage, and then they discovered the guy that they fell in love with is fucking terrible in bed.
Yeah, the dick is trash.
That happens a lot.
Yeah. Well, I mean, that's the thing. Like, I hate to be this person, but like, men culturally are taught that like basically showing up is like all they really need to do. And like, it's mind-blowing to me because it's like the very bare minimum, and they like want to be applauded for it, and it's like, what? So it's, but I in a way, like, I don't blame men entirely because that's what they're taught, and like if you watch porn, that's what you see in porn, like that's what you're taught. But like, I certainly wouldn't risk the rest of my life marrying someone I wasn't sure was good in bed. That's a long time to be disappointed.
Yeah, it I don't know. I think it's different because like women, it's much harder for a woman to be bad in bed than it is for a man. Because a man who is raised on porn will have all these unrealistic expectations of women. Start having sex and be like, hey, I should be able to smack you across the face, and like all this shit that is normal in porn.
You got to get on Kink Talk for that, okay?
Yeah, like, but that from what I understand, a lot of guys, like, that's what they start off at.
Yeah.
Like that's the level that they start off on kink talk without experiencing the
Like,
basic
bro,
fundamentals.
like, I'm gonna need you to
Because
chill.
that's what they've been raised to believe, that that's what women like, because that's what's portrayed.
Totally. Yeah.
So there's definitely unhealthy aspects to like porn consumption or hoe phasing or whatever.
Yeah.
But at the same time, like saying like I'm not going to do any of it at all until I'm married, that's even more of a wrong answer.
Yeah. I'm not gonna do like I just can't. Yeah. Like it's well, I just don't like you don't know anything about yourself either. It's not just about the other person. It's like you have no idea
Exactly.
what you even like, especially because y'all, sorry, this chat has gone off the rails, so we're just gonna go with it. But
It's
like
cool. People seem to be
you,
enjoying it.
when you're taught that like everything about your natural urges and instincts is sinful and bad, and like I know especially for men, they don't address it with as much with women because women are just seen as like asexual creatures who are here to provide a service to their husband. But you're taught that masturbation is also really sinful.
Oh yeah.
So not only like do you not learn what you like with somebody else, like you don't even learn what you like with yourself because you see it as shameful and bad and sinful and awful, and so you learn to correlate um obviously your own desires, but also like feeling good pleasure with sin and bad and something to avoid. Um, and so it's a I think it's just a really damaging. It's just really damaging to teach all of that because I mean part of why relationships don't work is because you're incompatible sexually. Like that's a big factor. And how can you be compatible sexually with someone if you don't even know what you like or
Yeah.
don't like? And when you grow up with this much shame around it, you don't talk about it. So, like, I remember for the longest time, like, when I would hook up with guys, some of them would ask, like, well, what do you like? What do you want? And I'm like, I don't know. Like, I literally don't know because I've never thought about it, never explored it, never talked about it. Um, None of that. I just was like, I don't know, whatever you want. Because that's what I thought my job was
Yeah.
just to like do whatever they wanted and go along with it. And like now at 32, I'm like, that's so fucked. But at the time, it was just like I was paralyzed because I actually had no idea. And I thought that like already what we were doing was bad, probably, even if I didn't think that on the like surface, definitely underneath, there was still that like, probably this is probably bad. I probably shouldn't be doing this. Um, yeah,
What was that
anyway.
show on Netflix? Sex Life?
Sex education.
I
Sex
think that's what
Education.
it's called, yeah.
Yeah.
Well, there's a new one.
Well,
You're
yeah,
talking about is sex education.
that's it. Okay, the one time was sex education. So yeah, there's this. For those who don't know, there's a story about this girl who is kind of in a, I guess, perpetual hoe phase, and
Oh yeah. I haven't
she's
seen it, but I know.
she's Maeve. She's always with guys who like ask her what she wants, and she's like, "Whatever you want, baby." And that's like how she lived her life with so many different partners, and then she had a partner who was like, "No, what do you want? I want to do what you want to do."
Yeah.
And she reached a point where she was like, I don't know what.
Like,
And
yeah.
she went to like the main character who was like a pseudo like sex counselor, and he was like, his mother's a sex counselor, and so he like gained like secondhand knowledge. Anyway,
These are all teenagers, by the way.
so he was like,
okay.
go jerk off a lot. He was like, figure out what you like, what you don't like, and then tell him. And she was like, okay, I figured out. And she went to her boyfriend and she was like, okay, so you're going to grab my jaw and then you're going to twist my ear and then you're going to whisper this into my neck and then I'm going to lose my mind. Like it was just like this little out there shit. But it's kind of along the lines like she was told to like figure out what it is you want.
Yeah.
And then communicate that to your partner.
Yeah. The communication part is so
sexual
hard.
relationship there. Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah. Genevieve was saying that what is it?
Jen says hi.
Hi to everybody.
Hi. I thought Not that I thought you went to bed with the cat.
No.
No, she's still here.
Oh.
No, we're
Conversation's
looking
getting
to-
spicy, you guys.
Yeah,
Stick around.
I would have been addressing Rachel as well, but I thought she was gone.
No,
Oh,
we're
yeah, she's
looking
here.
to do some vending during the town across from us. We have a wizarding festival that happens in August, and we're looking at vending at it. And I had to go count how many boxes I had so I could order more boxes for witchy shit.
Yeah.
And I had to take out my contacts. So
I want a wizarding festival next to my house.
Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah, anyway, so yeah, purity culture is a piece of shit.
Wait, what did you just spend?
nothing.
All right,
Fine.
conversation for after the live stream.
Yeah.
Anyway, so yeah, like all that to say, it was I was taught to believe that sex is this sacred, holy thing that is reserved between a man and a woman. And if you experience sex outside of marriage, it is going to rob you of what God has planned for you.
I was always very creeped out by the idea that like God was thinking about my sex life.
Yeah. God's watching you masturbate.
Right, exactly. Like, I just really don't want God to watch me doing any of this.
Like, well, can he help out? Like, what can he?
Jesus.
You know,
Like, could you help us sister out here, God? Because it's not working.
it's selfish. You know, just gonna watch and take care of himself. That's fine. It's selfish though.
I also realized like 2 weeks ago, TikTok will do that to you. My For You page has me like, do I even like men? I don't know.
Oh, listen. Anyway.
God, you're fluffer.
She's about ready to throw something at me. Never mind.
Rachel is?
Yeah.
Obviously, she's the only person in the room that could throw something at you. Let's see. What was I going to say?
Anyway, ow. Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, yeah, so trust in communication is a really important part, and I think that, like, I can't speak for men. I think for a lot of women, it's especially hard because, I mean, I don't want to be this person that generalizes, but I've had a lot of traumatic experiences with men, and so my first instinct is not to be communicative and open about things that make me feel vulnerable. So yeah, I get it. Sorry, just responding to.
Well, that's what you're taught by the church and in purity culture is your job is not to enjoy sex. Your job is to please your husband. Yeah. Your job is to be a pleaser. Ask him what he wants, and you're supposed to fulfill that. You're taught not to give a shit about what you want. Yeah. But you're your own person with your own desires, your own tastes, needs, whatever, what have you. But the church doesn't teach that. The church teaches that the woman is supposed to submit to the man's needs. Doesn't matter what you want. Doesn't matter.
I'm like, only if
your job is to please the man. So yeah, like it's crazy because, you know, if you're a freak and you want to be tied up and handcuffed and whatever, you know, like you're not supposed to ask for those
shaming,
things.
Okay?
Anyway, yeah. But the church is the ultimate kink shamer. Women are not supposed to have kinks. Women's kinks are supposed to be to please their men. That is.
They're like, I'm really kinky. I love missionary with the lights off.
Missionary with the lights off.
Oh yeah. I swear, like, here we're getting real personal on here, but like, it's so funny because the content that I create on TikTok versus the content that's on my For You page are so different. And it just makes me laugh. Yeah, anyway. Because I'm like putting out all of this stuff about religion, and then like half of my For You page is like lesbians, the other half is kink talk. And then I have like some interspersed with religion. So it'll be like something about Jesus, and the next thing is like Shibari. What the fuck is going on?
I've had a bunch of like DJ talk on my For You page. For some fucking reason, I have no idea.
DJ?
Like DJ is like
music?
Jamming out on the riff board or whatever, their synthesizer, whatever you're talking. Like, I have no idea. I've never liked a video about that. I've never like.
I mean,
but for some reason, the algorithm is like force feeding me DJs at the moment.
Better than what they've been force feeding me. Because outside of that stuff, they're trying to put me in lives with like fundamentalist Christians, and I'm like, I will not be
I
going
get
in
a lot
there.
of those on my free page too. Like
Occasionally, I pop in and I'm like, "Hail Satan," and then I leave. But for the most part, I'm just like, I wish I didn't even have to see this because it makes me mad.
Yeah, women are not supposed to enjoy sex. That's not a thing. Have you guys seen Pin 15 when Grandma's watching?
Yes.
The Pin
That show
15
is hilarious.
Is that a show?
Yeah.
Yes, it's so funny.
Okay, I'll have to look that up. Gosh.
Yeah, that's funny. Ironically, though, submission is a big part of a lot of kinks. Christianity is pro-dom.
Oh yeah. I made a video recently. Where I like green screened some pictures of, I forget the name of the pastor, but he was like we are supposed to submit to God. God is dominant over us. Blah blah blah. And I was like, I used the audio of like, oh, am I attracted to this? And I made the caption like Christians who have a secret persecution complex.
Oh yeah,
It was like I am nothing without God. I am dirt. I am garbage.
That guy has a degradation kink for sure.
Exactly.
Like,
yeah, that's what I'm saying. Like,
wants someone to call him like a dirty, evil sinner.
Yeah.
And then he's gonna have to like run to the restroom.
Yeah.
I saw Steve Aoki at a strip club a few weeks ago.
Oh, Steve Aoki? Who's that?
Yeah. DJ. Pretty famous DJ. Yeah. So I have never been to a strip club, which is funny considering I have many stripper friends.
Oh, she's gone.
Oh no.
She hit a button and she's gone now. I need to. Favorite dinosaur is a Utah raptor. It's like a velociraptor, but it's bigger.
You just kicked me out again, probably because I was talking about strippers. Thank you.
Yeah, here.
Favorite
anyway.
Dinosaur.
Yeah, Utah raptor. It's like a velociraptor, but bigger. Was discovered in Utah. Anyway. Pachycephalosaurus is a good answer. Anyway, what were you saying?
I don't know. This went from like let's talk about the Bible to like talking about like kink and.
Oh, that's.
I mean,
that's what you can.
For me, it's just funny. I went to a 50 Shades of Men show once for a bachelorette party.
50 Shades of Men? What does that even mean?
I don't know. I had someone invite me to like the Thunder Down Under like male strip whatever. It's not my jam.
That's all it was, strip clubs. Okay.
Yeah, I don't want guys dancing on me. No thanks.
I've been to one strip club and that was in Las Vegas.
God, I hate Vegas.
It was with my ex-wife and it was just like a what happens in Vegas stays in Vegas type thing. So she was like, let's do it. So I went there and then they were cash only. So she left to go get cash from an ATM outside of the building.
Yeah.
And a bunch of strippers. I was a veteran and they found that out because the bouncer was like, recognized me as a veteran. And there was like a 2-drink minimum buy-in. And he was like, hey, 1 drink for this guy. So he hooked me up. And so I was alone in this like half dome seating area. And then a bunch of the strippers came and just like sat next to me. He's like, started feeling up on me. It's like, thank you for your service. I've never felt more uncomfortable in my life.
It's not my thing.
My God. I wanted to run away so fucking fast.
Stop touching me.
I was so uncomfortable.
In order for me to let someone touch me in any capacity, like I have to have some kind of trust with the other person. Even
these are
like
strangers.
People, like I'm just like, bro, like I don't know you.
Doesn't matter how hot they were.
No,
they're fucking strangers. I don't know fucking who you are.
Some random hot guy tried to touch me, he'd get popped. Like I don't care if you're hot or not. Like I don't want to be touched.
Yeah. Yeah, has nothing to do with. Ugh.
Yeah, no, thank you.
Yeah, I've never been comfortable in strip clubs.
Trust, what's that? Yeah, I don't know. I've never met her, but
Yeah, who is Trust? Who's this person? Yeah.
some
Yeah.
bitch.
But then I wonder, like, is this purity culture? Should I be comfortable with this?
I don't know.
Otherwise, if I wasn't like raised in this, or like,
Yeah. I
I don't
mean,
know.
for me, I think it's a confluence of things. I think part of it is purity culture. I think part of it is sexual abuse and assault. So I think that there's like a bunch of stuff going on there.
Yeah,
But
so
also like
much.
as a kid, I didn't really have the capacity to tell people like not even just like not sexual stuff, but just like if I didn't want to hug someone, it didn't matter. I still had to hug them or like, you know, old people are weird. They're always like poking and doing whatever to kids, and like kids are just supposed to put up with it. And so like now as an adult, I'm like, nope, no. Like like if I met you, I would give you a hug. But like if some guy on the street was like, I don't know,
Yeah.
I would just be like, no, don't touch me. Don't come to Mardi Gras. Yeah, like I would be very drunk, so I'd be okay. What did I just walk into? It's hard to know. We went from the Bible to kink. Honestly, not that far apart.
Stick around. Who knows where the conversation's going to go?
You never know.
We can redirect it though. Um, so you've been learning about early Christianity, right? Similar to what I've been.
Yeah. Um. Yeah. Sorry, I'm
I've
like gathering my thoughts. I
I've.
have been.
It's interesting learning that um, early Christians were not persecuted for being Christians because that's what
No.
we're always been taught.
Yeah.
Martyrs, whatever. I read all of the Jesus Freak
Me
series.
too.
There's like 3 or 4 of them, right? I read all of them. And then you learn that, yeah, early Christians were not persecuted for being Christians. They were persecuted because they refused to worship the Roman gods as well.
Yeah.
They didn't give a shit that you worship Yahweh. They didn't care. They were pantheistic. Everyone believed in every god. The argument was about whose god was stronger and which god was worthy of worship more. So along comes this group who wants to worship Yahweh. They didn't care, but they refused
Right.
to worship the Roman gods.
Yeah.
And they were assembling in secret, which is another part of it. Pliny the Younger wrote the letter to the emperor, referring to that, and like, "Hey, how do I try these people? They don't seem to be committing any crime." And the emperor responds like, "Oh, they're convening unlawfully. They're having unlawful assemblies."
Right.
Um,
Well, and some folks, we have some accounts of them being persecuted under the arson charge because of
for
Nero
Nero,
blaming,
yeah.
yeah, blaming the Christians as like a scapegoat because they were
There's
already sort of like
Tacitus writes about that.
antisocial weirdos.
Yeah.
Yeah, that
Like
was actually
Tacitus is
interesting
pretty
to me.
plain about that. He's like Nero. So Nero had this new idea for Rome, but the problem was the current Rome was in the way. So he wanted to like pretty much get rid of Rome
Yeah,
and start from the ground up.
I
But
Rome.
you can't just do that. So he basically orchestrated a mass arson of Rome and then blamed the Christians because, according to Tacitus and Pliny the Younger, Christians were the scum of the society. Everyone hated them. They were superstitious nut jobs. So it was easy for him to pin that mass arson on them.
Yeah,
So he blamed it on them, arrested them, tortured them, executed them publicly as a way of covering up what he actually did. But again, Tacitus was like, no, this was actually him doing this.
yeah,
Um,
yeah, and it's also interesting. Something that I didn't know that sort of come up in my recent reading is that after Nero died, there was actually sort of a myth or rumor going around that he actually hadn't died and that he would be coming back, basically. And this was primarily, I think this originated primarily in like, God, I don't remember the East or it, outside of Rome by people who thought Nero was actually kind of okay because they didn't live in Rome. Um, And a lot of scholars, especially the ones I've been reading recently, think that this is what the reference in Revelation is to basically the beast that has 10 heads, and the first or one of the heads received a mortal blow, but then basically healed itself. And so a lot of them think that that was in reference to Nero, which I would have never known. I thought was interesting.
Yeah, I'm not sure. I
So
know
it's
that.
called like.
Go
Sorry,
ahead.
go ahead.
Wait. Do you think that having ADHD impacted you becoming Christian and or staying a Christian for so long as you did?
I think having ADHD didn't allow me to accept bullshit.
I think ADHD, because as part of my ADHD, I become hyper obsessed with things.
Me too.
Very easily, and most of the time for a very temporary period of time, but sometimes it's very long lasting. Like working out. I was hyper obsessed with working out for a very long time. Just like Christianity. I became a Christian. It was hyper obsessed with the Bible, theology, apologetics for a very long time.
Me too.
But I also took up like archery, painting, violin, acoustic guitar, like things like that were much more temporary, things that I was just wanting to explore and never,
exactly.
Very temporary. But again, there were things like Christianity that lasted a very long time. And so maybe that did play a part in my Christian upbringing, I guess.
Yeah.
Yes.
I mean, yeah, I agree all the way on that. I will get hyper obsessed with things, and usually within a couple of weeks I'm over it. So like my entire room is like shit that I thought I was really going to get into, and I'm like, I'm never going to do that. Painting, beading, I'm trying to think what else, drawing, crocheting, just a whole bunch of things. And I did them for a little bit of time, and then I was just over it. Photography, old cameras, like, and I actually had the same experience where when I was a Christian, I thought like, I'm gonna know all the things. I'm gonna be an apologist. I'm gonna, study all this, have all the answers, blah blah blah. And then when it started to crumble, I became hyper fixated on research, and that's something that really hasn't gone away. I think partially because of all the years of indoctrination and all the time I spent learning that side. So now I'm way more interested in this. But this has been my focus for many years now, so I think it'll probably stay for a while. But yeah.
Well, now I have like this this outside source that's like feeding that.
Right. Yeah. Like other people are interested, so it drives me to like, yeah, let me read more about this.
Exactly. I have all these people asking me these questions, and I'm like, let me look into this, and it's keeping me involved.
Yeah.
And the same thing with like when I play bass guitar. I was in a worship band. I played bass guitar for years. Now that I'm not in a worship band, I haven't touched my bass guitar in a while.
Yeah.
So it's a matter of staying engaged.
It's hard for me to stay engaged with most things if there isn't some kind of external accountability, maybe. It's also why I really struggle with, like, this sounds really shitty, but like I am really bad at keeping up with my friendships. Like nothing has changed about the way I feel about the person.
Oh, me too.
But like I just never think to reach out to them, or at least not very often. And like there's no external, like I'm not in school, I'm not going to church, I'm not doing any of these things where I'm put into social situations, and so I tend to just be like, oh, just I never think about it, and I don't know what that's a byproduct of, but it's not good.
Yes. It's weird. It's kind of a gift in some ways too, though.
Still love you, just don't ever reach out.
It's like it comes with a price. I don't fucking know.
Yeah.
How to describe it.
Not great.
Anyway, where do we go from here?
I don't know.
So, what have you? What was it? I'm trying not to ask the same questions that a million people have asked.
No worries.
What currently is piquing your interest? Like, what are you like realizing that? Oh, this is not something I ever recognized when I was an evangelical, but now it's clear.
Yeah.
It's weird. It's a different perspective. Like, what is? Does that question make sense?
I think so. So something, and I think we talked about this briefly, something that's been really interesting to me recently is just like the formation of the early church. Because what we actually, the knowledge that we have is somewhat limited on like how this came to be. And I find it fascinating how we went from having like a small group of sort of peasants that just wandered around to it being one of the driving forces of the Western world.
Yeah.
And that's a lot to unpack and a lot to think about, but it's interesting how, like, for me, it's like, okay, how did we go from, forget, you know, the modern world, like, how did we go from, like, okay, this guy that we're following has been crucified, is dead, what do we do now? Because I think it's often easy to forget that, like, the folks that were following Jesus, at least if you believe that Jesus existed, which I do, these were real people with real lives who were like really fully invested in this, and then the leader was just killed. So it's like there's a lot of human emotion that goes into that, and I think sometimes it gets lost because we just have these kind of sterilized writings where it's like, and then this happened, and then this happened, and then this happened. So that's been really interesting how it goes from like, okay, our leader is dead to being like this, you know, the religion of Rome. And honestly, like when I was in the church, I would have just thought like everything when I was in evangelical just seemed like, oh, of course that would happen because Jesus really died and rose again. So then of course people would be drawn to that, and then of course they would form this religion, and like because you're also not taught in church, at least I wasn't, that like that the disciples were like I don't know, the resurrection is taken for granted, and so you're just like, well, the disciples were like basically intentionally blinded from understanding the truth that Jesus was just telling them. But then they died, or he died, and then he rose again without any questions, and then of course that's how like, you know, they came to be the founders of the church. But like in reality, at least most likely, they followed him, he died, and they thought he rose from the dead, or later on people said that he rose from the dead, but like, yeah, I don't know if that's really clear. It's just an interesting like overall sort of process. Let's see what else.
Yeah, it's what I'm exploring now is the idea that the gospel authors made connections to the Old Testament, or from Jesus to the Old Testament,
Yes.
that were not there previously. And I made a video
Yes.
about this earlier today about the differences between Mark and Luke.
Yeah.
Mark says that Jesus said before the pilot, I am who you say I am. And then he didn't say anything else until, my God, why have you forsaken me? But in Luke, it's very different. He speaks a few times until the last thing he says, which is not, my God, why have you forsaken me? It's, into your hand I commend my spirit.
Yeah.
As a Christian, you're like, oh, it's kind of the same thing. There's just different perspectives.
Yeah, you just
But
gloss over it.
yeah, you just gloss over. It's not a big deal, whatever. Because you're taught to ignore those things, explain them away, whatever. But now, as a uh, textual critic, you're like, this doesn't make sense.
Yeah.
Why is it's so different? Why is it so different?
Yeah.
And one thing that strikes me in Mark is, even though he said that, my God, why have you forsaken me? It seems to insinuate that he did not expect this to happen.
Yeah.
But previously, he made allusions to the fact that he did, like, the Son of Man must be given up as a sacrifice, as it is written. I'm like, okay, as it is written where? Where's it written that the Son of Man must be sacrificed?
Yeah.
It's not, ever. You look in the Old Testament, the Son of Man, referring to Daniel, is an archangel in the apocalyptic literature. It's not referring to Jesus. And then a lot of Christians will use Daniel or Isaiah 53, which is referring to the suffering servant, not the Son of Man, the suffering servant.
Yep. Have you read the book Helping Jesus Fulfill Prophecy?
No. Who's that by?
I'll have to go look. I want to say Miller, but it's a really fascinating look at like how, I mean, exactly what it sounds like, how Jesus was made to fulfill prophecies that weren't about him. Yeah, it's really interesting. Also, it reminded me when you mentioned that was that the my God, why have you forsaken me, or the Eli, Eli, lama sabachthani. I was reading today that it's actually more literally translated to why have you left me behind? And really? I'd have to look more into that. It was just what I was reading in this.
No, that's entirely possible.
I was reading it in Lost Christianities, because they were talking about how when Serapion, is that how you pronounce it? Serapion was the archbishop. He had a church in Rosses. I'm probably butchering this, so forgive me. But he found out that they were using as their sacred text the Gospel of Peter. And so at first he was like, okay, whatever, like he didn't really care. But then he had some informants that were like, you should read this. There's some weird shit going on. So he reads the Gospel of Peter and finds out that like there's a couple of passages that could be used to justify docetism.
Hey, what's going on, Oz? Just want to give a quick shout out to Oz.
Oh, no worries.
Popped in.
Which was the notion that Jesus actually wasn't flesh and blood. And there were sort of two avenues that took. One was that he was not flesh and blood. He was just divine, and therefore he didn't suffer, or could not suffer. And the second was that Jesus became divine at the baptism when the dove came down from heaven and entered
adoptionism. Yeah.
Yeah, exactly. And so,
which is most indicative of the early Christian view.
Yeah, but the docetism. So Serapion considered this to be heretical because basically if Jesus wasn't able to suffer and die, then his death didn't have any redemptive power. It wasn't redemption. And so he was like, he was working off the assumption that like, well, if this book is disagreeing with what I believe, then it's automatically a forgery and disingenuous. And so he actually made them stop using that book as their holy book. Now you find out later that like that book actually is a forgery, but also that forgeries are so common and also not the way we think about them today. So like even if you look at like Pythagoras, a lot of his students would have written treatises or done work and then signed it with his name because they were like, their idea was we learned everything from him. And so we're using that knowledge that he gave us to write this. So to them, it seemed disingenuous to sign their name to it. Which is all a really super roundabout way of saying I'm fascinated by this notion of the early Christians, what they really believed. A lot of them really thought Jesus wasn't flesh and blood. And a lot of these beliefs that we would consider heresy or heretical now were very much in rotation in early Christianity. And we just get the winner's version.
Yes. It's crazy to me because it's absolutely true that what the earliest Christian groups believed is considered heresy nowadays.
Right,
Like
yeah.
the idea that Jesus was not God, he never claimed to be God. That is batshit. Like when I was a Christian, the dedicated member of the Assemblies of God, you're hardcore Trinitarian, I would have thought you were nuts for
Oh yeah,
saying that.
me too.
But now I'm like, oh my God, you're right. Jesus never claimed to be God. He claimed to be divine, but he
Yeah,
never claimed to be equal to God.
yeah.
He
When
claimed,
I
and in fact, he's subservient to God. In like John, was it 16:25 or something like that, where he says, "I can do nothing but the will of my Father." I think I got that
mhm,
scripture wrong, but like, yeah, it's a clear subservient position,
yeah,
which is why the earliest Christians believed, yeah, adoptionism. When Jesus was baptized, the dove ascended upon him, which was, by the way, Logos, which is Sophia, the goddess of wisdom. Anyway, that's a whole other thing. Um, and God was like, "This is my son, who I am well pleased." That was God adopting Jesus as
yeah,
his chosen spokesman.
yeah.
So that's what the early Christians believed, and
When I
it,
think
it,
also
it
people tend to forget that, like, at least, and this is also something that I found really interesting, was this idea of how scholars use any number of metrics to decide what's authentic or what's later or what's, whatever. And that a lot of the teachings in the different books of the Bible that we consider to be what Jesus said or did are actually later additions, or at least scholars think that they're later additions because they either don't fit the historical context or they don't quite fit the like style or whatever it happens to be, or they're very dissimilar from everything else that's being said. Um, and so it's interesting because when I was a Christian, I like again, I was not reading it through this lens. I was just reading it as like, this is
yeah,
what happened. This is what Jesus said. This is what Jesus did. And now I'm learning about all of these academic and scholarly techniques that help determine like what is actually most historically accurate, and then what was then added later. And I'm finding this interesting because then there's the why was it added? Why was it added then? Why was it added by this person? Like there's all of these layers to it that make it so much more interesting when you stop just reading it like it's a historical continuous narrative and then you're trying to like harmonize it because you're supposed to, basically.
yeah. Yeah, well said. Correa says, "Do you think Paul was genuine, or think his visions of Jesus was hallucinations, delusions? Do you think he had a condition like Joan of Arc?"
I think he
Oh,
had.
um,
We think he was bribed by the Roman government.
yeah, that's a pretty
It's a theory.
prevalent theory that he was bribed by the Roman government because he was Paul. Unlike Jesus' disciples were illiterate. They were not super familiar with the Jewish law or the law of Moses. They were somewhat familiar with it, but they weren't scholars of it.
Right.
Again, they couldn't read, they couldn't write. They were fishermen, tax collectors. Um, but then along comes Paul, and when Jesus died as a criminal, which they weren't expecting, he was the Messiah. He was supposed to be this conquering force who would overthrow the Roman government. That's what they were expecting.
Yeah.
And along comes Jesus, and they groomed him to be that person. But he ended up ultimately dying as a criminal, which is why they were mourning so hard. They weren't expecting this. This wasn't supposed to happen. So what's the explanation? Well, then comes Paul, who is a scholar, and he's able to explain to them, hey, this is actually the fulfillment of Old Testament prophecy. The Old Testament predicts the new covenant, because I've made a video about this a few days ago. The earliest Christians wanted to be completely separate from Judaism. They did not want to be affiliated with them at all, so they had no intention of using the Old Testament as part of their gospel. But the problem is, you can't just start a new religion,
Yeah.
because you'd be like, hey, you worship Jesus, who was executed as a criminal 20 years ago? Really? You expect us to follow you? Uh, So then they started to argue that the Old Testament was the prediction of the New Testament, or the fulfilling of the New Testament prophecies. And thus they could claim that their religion is not new. It's actually tied to the beginning of time.
Yeah.
So Paul can essentially come along and explain all of that to them. Because again, they're illiterate. They don't know any better. He's in a very good position where he could take advantage of them. They're emotionally vulnerable. They're dumb. They're lame. They're illiterate. They don't know. And he can absolutely manipulate them. And he does. That's what seems to happen with Paul. Again, like you pointed out, probably incentivized by the Roman government. And again, it's pure speculation. We don't have any concrete evidence of that, but that's kind of where what we understand kind of leads to or points to.
Yeah. I mean, the other option is that he had a hallucination and then based the rest of his life on that hallucination, which is possible.
That's what he writes.
It's yeah, but also like writing that you had a vision of something back then wasn't as weird as it would be today.
Yeah, no, that was very common.
Yeah, I was scrolling today and saw the video. The girl was like, "Jesus appeared to me in my kitchen while I was making pasta," and I was like,
"Dude,
okay." But like back then, it was normal to have visions and to see things, and I mean, they also thought that like many people were performing miracles on the street, so like it's just not as strange then. So like even if the Roman government had incentivized him, that would be a perfectly normal explanation for why he suddenly decided to convert, right? Like, oh, I had a vision, and the disciples or whatever, they would have really have gone for that because they're already like all in the shit with believing the supernatural sauce. So why wouldn't Jesus appear to somebody and tell him whatever?
Yeah, like in antiquity, the supernatural was not separate from the natural like it is today. Like we believe that there's natural and the supernatural is outside of nature, right? Well, in antiquity, it was viewed as like a spectrum.
Yeah.
You could be human. You could be a human, but somewhat divine. You could be human, but be more divine. You could be human, but be mostly divine, or you could be just divine, or then you could be super divine, or you could be like ultra divine. Like it was a whole thing. They didn't view divinity like we do today.
Right.
Human beings worship gods. Romulus, the founder of Rome, Caesar Augustus. So if you were like an athlete or supernatural or unnaturally beautiful like Athena, or you were wise beyond your years like Jesus may have been, you were worshipped as a god or believed to be somewhat divine. So this was not unusual back to us. It's weird, but to them it was Tuesday.
Yeah.
To them it was Tuesday. Yeah. So for his disciples to claim that Jesus was divine in some way was not weird. It wasn't weird at all. So when Paul comes along and says, "Yeah, he was the Messiah, he was the Son of God," they're like, "Oh, okay, yeah, that makes sense."
It seems right.
Yeah, it was not a crazy fucking out there claim.
Yeah.
It was relatively normal.
Yeah. Agree.
Yeah. Wait, what's going on? TikTok is face shaping the Yeti mic. Is it really? That's funny. Where do I want to go with this? The reason that Yahweh got so much attention in antiquity is because he had a reputation of being a healer god. Because think about it, at the time, there was no medicine. Infant mortality rate was through the roof. Mothers died during childbirth way more often than they do today. Supposedly, a woman had to have 6 children in order to maintain the current populace.
Right.
Because 5 out of 6 children would probably die during childbirth or SIDS or whatever, or the mother would die. And then you have like leprosy. Leprosy was rampant. What was it? Tooth decay.
Oh yeah, the like leading cause of death was like tooth abscess.
Yeah, like tooth. Yeah, that's it. Tooth abscess. That was like the number one cause of death. So you had all these like, like mental health or physical health issues that were killing people off. And then along comes Yahweh, which followers of Yahweh told everyone he's a healer God. He healed people of leprosy. He healed women, or a woman with the issue of blood. He healed a man who was missing an arm and it grew back. He healed the man who was lame, or he healed all these people. He healed Lazarus, raised him from the dead. Yahweh was a healer God. So that was very, very attractive to them at the time.
Yeah.
So that's why Yahweh kind of rose above the ranks in the divine realm. You have other gods who was like a storm god, or an earth god, or a fire god, volcanic god, desert god, whatever. And then you have a god who could fucking heal people from things that would otherwise kill them. That was attractive at the time. That was the equivalent of like, that was like, hey, here's the best doctor in it's Dr. House over here, right? That's who this is. So he was head, neck, and shoulders above all the other gods. So he was very attractive. And that's why Constantine converted to Christianity, because he was in the midst of a civil war and he needed the help of the strongest God. And again, at the time, that was Yahweh. Everyone believed in every god. There was no issue. There's no debates about which god existed and which ones didn't. The debate was about which god was strongest, which god was the most worthy of worship. At the time, Constantine believed that Yahweh was it. Yahweh was the bee's knees. He was the one who was the strongest, most worthy of worship, because he could heal everybody. So that's who he converted to. That's who he started worshiping. And lo and behold, he won the Civil War, which he believed because he converted to the right, or worshiping the right God, Yahweh. So that's why we're here today. Pretty much. That's kind of how it. As simply as I can put it, that's why we're here today, because
God strong.
Because prior to that, Constantine worshipped the Greek gods, and then he found them to be inadequate, and then discovered Yahweh to be the one who blessed him and enabled him to conquer or win his civil war. So, thus he established a nation, he established Christianity. He didn't establish it as a state religion; he just legalized it. His predecessor made it the state religion, but. Yeah.
So, wait, Constantine's predecessor made it the state religion?
No, not his predecessor. The one who superseded his suppressor. The one
that comes after him.
Yeah, the one who superseded him.
Okay.
Yes. The suppressor.
No, I don't think it's the suppressor.
Yeah, like I know, like you have the predecessor, which came before him, and then what is the word? Holy shit! Someone help me out in the comments. What is the
predecessor? The predecessor comes before.
Predecessor. So then the successor. Fuck yes, the successor. Oh my god! Thank you, Robin.
Sometimes I think I'm really smart, and then I get reminded how dumb I am.
I tell people constantly, I'm not an intellectual. Don't think I'm an intellectual. I'm fucking not.
No.
His successor, yes. His successor made Christianity the state religion. But he just legalized it. Or even I think his predecessor, using that term accurately, did not. It was still legal at the time, but you had to pay like a certain tax to worship Yahweh. And then Constantine came around and he eliminated that tax. He made Christianity equal with any other Roman form of worship. And then again, his successor made that the state religion.
The more,
So tip of the right.
well, yeah, when people are like, "You're so smart," I'm like, I just play a smart person on the internet. I'm a fucking
That's
idiot.
exactly right. I'm
Yeah.
just a fucking guy who makes TikToks. That's it. I'm not as smart as fucking people think I am. But you're so intelligent. Yeah, I'm not. I'm really not. I know a lot about one topic.
Yeah, I feel the same.
That's where I'm at. Anyway. Oh gosh. Ugh. Goodness. Uncontrollable hiccups all of a sudden. Ugh. Shit. How do I stop feeling guilty for being happy outside of... Let me start over. How do I stop feeling guilty for being happy outside of outside of religion?
Therapy.
I may get a drink because these hiccups are not stopping. Be right back.
I mean, therapy. Oh, I gotta fix the light. Hold on. Turn this off. Oy. Okay, there we go. Yeah, therapy helped me a lot. Because it's
Okay. I think coming over feeling guilt for experiencing happiness outside of... That's a really telling question though. Just that sentence. How do I stop feeling guilty for being happy outside of religion? That says a lot. That's a really powerful question.
I think it's the first step is realizing that you're just feeling the guilt because the church uses guilt as a tool to keep people in the church.
Oh yeah.
So I mean, you can recognize that it's being weaponized. That your happiness is being weaponized. Also, I mean,
ooh, that's good.
Yeah, I mean that's what the church does, right? All the things that feel good, you're told are bad, and so you really get mixed up with your own sort of understanding of reality or understanding of your senses or any of those things. For me personally, I stopped the guilt sort of started to subside the more I learned, because the more I realized that the church had basically been either willingly lying to me or withholding information, or the people were just too dumb to have done any of their own research, it started to make me feel less bad, because I was like, these people have been fucking with my entire life and they haven't done the bare minimum or they're actively lying.
Mm-hmm. I would say just give yourself time.
Yeah.
When you're deconstructing, it doesn't happen overnight. For me, it took years. Your brain is literally undergoing a chemical change on a biological level, and you have to give it the time it needs. There's no way to rush it. It's gonna suck. It's gonna suck ass for probably a long time. You just have to go with it.
But it also it doesn't have to be a 24-hour a day thing. I think it's important to allow yourself to rest and to not constantly be thinking about it if you can avoid it. So for me, for a while, it was every second of the day I was just thinking about some aspect of deconversion, whatever it was. But it's okay to just watch a TV show and not think about it. And just let yourself zone out or veg out or whatever, or do something that you find really fun. that sort of takes your mind off things, because like you said, it doesn't happen overnight. The church didn't indoctrinate you overnight. So it's going to take some time. And I think it's really important to learn to have compassion with yourself, like the same compassion that you would extend to a friend or a family member or somebody you love. Extend that same compassion to yourself, because you're just a person doing a really intense, traumatic experience and going through that and coming out the other side. Because deconstruction absolutely is traumatic, because you're destroying and then rebuilding an entire worldview. For me, it felt like part of me was dying. But that also meant that other parts of me got to more fully live. But you can hold space for both of those things, and you can grieve for what you're losing, and be compassionate towards the side of you that's hurting, but also embrace the new things. And it's exciting to get to learn more about yourself, and to learn that like you're not inherently bad.
No, that's very accurate. Like I made a video about this, I think a few days ago, talking about deconstruction and how deconstructing is hard. It's very, very hard, but it can also be kind of fun at times, because you're reintroducing yourself to yourself. You no longer are basing yourself off of how well you can please a creator God.
That's
You're
impossible.
now, which a God that it says is possible to please. Our greatest works are but filthy rags before the Lord. So why fucking even try? But then you enter in a period where you're like, fuck God, fuck my church friends, fuck my church expectations, fuck my family expectations, and you block everything out. And then you're like, what do I want to do? What is, you really start to focus on yourself. So like and then you start to realize there's music I've always wanted to listen to, but I've always felt guilty listening to it because there's cuss words or whatever. There's movies, TV shows I've always wanted to watch, but I didn't feel like I was allowed to because there was whatever themes that the magic or whatever that the church would not, approve of. So you would like deny yourself that. And then when you're deconstructing, you realize the church has no say-so over your life. So you can feel free to explore these things. And it's fun. It's fun as shit. You're like, holy shit, I've been missing out on this for so long. And it can be quite enjoyable. It's scary, absolutely scary, but it can be a very fun experience at the same time.
Yeah, definitely.
So I would say to the original question, like you'll feel guilty, sure. Just work through it. Eventually you'll stop feeling guilty.
Just remind yourself in those moments that like there's nothing inherently bad about what you're doing. You've just been taught that it's bad. So for me, it was really important to identify that, like, okay, why do I feel bad for watching this show? Okay, because there's, I don't know, a sex scene. Okay, well, I've been taught that sex is bad outside of marriage and shameful, and I've internalized all of these beliefs. And you're not going to undo that in one moment, but you can actively tell yourself, sex isn't bad. It's not sinful. There's nothing wrong with it, and there's nothing wrong with like there's nothing wrong with watching a movie with sex in it or liking the sex scene. There's nothing wrong with any of that, right? There's no shame that should be inherent in that because it's a natural part of being a person. You've just been taught that there's shame attached to it. And I have those conversations with myself still, and I've had them a lot in the past. And it's something my therapist recommended, like interrupt those thoughts and remind yourself that like these things are normal and natural and okay. You've just been brainwashed in this other way.
Yeah, that's what the church does best, is it teaches you that your very nature as a biological human species is an affront to God, is blasphemous, is evil, sinful before the Holy Lord.
Yeah, even though He created you in His image.
Yeah. So you should be shamed of your very nature. You should deny your very nature. You should feel all these things. And then you realize, like, no, you're an animal. That's all we are. We're fucking animals. We're a little bit more developed, intelligent,
Just a little bit.
but
Sometimes.
we're fucking animals, you know?
Yeah.
There's nothing unnatural about what we desire, sexually, otherwise. It's totally natural, but the church
I also
convinces us
did like a lot of psychedelics, but that might not be for you.
that too. Yeah, like there's animals that eat like mushrooms and other psychedelics for the sole purpose of hallucinating or whatever. That's not an area I'm very unfamiliar with, but
I did do a bunch of hallucinogens, but it wasn't an actual recommendation. Just
what I learned, and we talked about purity culture earlier, and I'll kind of touch back on that, is that we put sex on a pedestal. We're taught to believe that sex is this sacred thing that should be between us and the one that God chose for us to be married to. That's it.
Yeah.
And if we have sexual relationships to anyone else, it is going to damage us and prevent us from being what God intends us to be for the one He intended us to be with. We're damaging ourselves for that person. And then you realize that sex is just a natural part of being a human animal. We're animals. Fucking that's it. There's nothing sacred about it. We like to have sex. That's it. Period. Point blank. But the church has taught you that it's sacred, and this has taught you to be scared of it, to be scared of exploring it. Yeah, I don't even know where I was going with that, but it's just that's how the church convinces you that your very nature is sinful. The doctrine of original sin.
Yeah.
But it's natural. It's who we are as biological species. Anyway. Where did you serve? I have served in Iraq, Macedonia, Philadelphia, and DC. And Kuwait. For a little while.
I hate to be this person, but I have to be up at 5 tomorrow.
No, it's fine. We're at 2.5 hours, which is well beyond what I expected. So,
but I had a great time. Thanks for having me. I hope I was coherent.
Yeah, same. I'm a little, at the moment.
Yeah.
We did. But yeah, thanks for coming on. I want to have you on more in the future.
Yeah, I'd love that.
For things
yeah,
like this. Absolutely. You seem to have a lot of fans in the comments.
I appreciate it. I don't know. It's still mind blowing to me that like people give a shit what I have to say.
Believe me.
It's real weird, but I appreciate it so much. And for all the people that like my voice is validating to, like their voice is validating to me. So yeah, it's thank you. It's weird to me that I have fans.
in my experience, there's so many people who had questions that their pastors or spiritual leaders could not answer. Yeah. But we can.
Yeah, because we're not married to the end result, right? Yeah.
Yeah, so I have no problem telling you why the Earth is not 6,000 years old, or
right, and then letting you draw your own conclusions, just giving you the information, and then letting you think for yourself.
Yeah, you do what you will with that.
Yeah, I'm a big stan now. Thank you, Correa. I love you.
Correa's fun times. She's good people.
next time, hopefully, I'll be a little more prepared. It was just sort of spur of the moment, and so I was just like, yeah, let's do it.
Yeah, I appreciate you jumping on, because for those who aren't watching, I didn't know if I was going to be able to make a Q&A tonight, because today's been nuts. My kids have soccer on Thursdays, and it ran late, which it usually does. And we have to give bath time after soccer, so I had no idea if I'd be able to do the show tonight. But Jess jumped in last minute and was like, "Yeah, I'll come in," which I'm super appreciative. I can't do a show on my own. I need someone to dialogue with. I can't just fucking talk.
Oh no, I couldn't. That's the thing, is like people keep asking me to make a YouTube channel, and I'm like, I have to find someone to do it with, because I cannot sit
Exactly.
and
That's why
stare
I'm
at my
so
screen.
grateful.
Yeah,
Yeah.
it just can't be me by myself. Like I just can't.
Yeah, that's why I was so grateful for like Crimson Barrel or Mason.
Yeah.
Who was like, "Hey, I want to be a co-host." It's like, awesome.
Right. Yeah.
Someone I can dialogue with.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, so we'll see about
Do
it.
what you guys.
Yeah, actually, so he and I have sort of roughly been chatting about doing something. So
Really?
well, I just mean, like, we were talking about, because we're both on the West Coast, actually we're both in California, and like I love him a lot, so we were like, let's like team up or make a team, and then we can see where we can go from there, like maybe a podcast, maybe a show. Like,
if you two started a YouTube show,
yeah, I think it would do okay.
Shit would happen.
I think I'm gonna ask him if he wants to do it. I know he's been like trying to sort out his like work stuff.
Yeah, his schedule's kind of crazy.
Yeah, but like maybe once he leaves his job, Jesus, if you're watching, it's you and me, bro.
I think that could be a thing, and I think that I think that could take off.
Yeah, I'll hit him up and see. It could be good. I do love him.
I'll have both of you on and promote your show.
That would be awesome. Yeah, I was thinking about that today, actually, seeing if I can convince him to do it. Because I know that's like what he wants to do. Ultimately, I think he wants to just create content, do like some kind of, I don't know, YouTube or podcast, and talk to more people, get their experiences, learn more stuff, which is basically what I want to do. So
yeah, it's intimidating to. Oh, she's gone now. Oh shit. Maybe she went to bed. Is she gonna come back? She's lost connection. Alright. Well, I know as soon as I start to sign off, she's gonna pop back in. But to those of you who did not realize I'm missing a tooth, yeah, I attempted a backflip on a concrete floor, and there she is. It didn't go very well.
I don't know what is happening. Sorry.
No, you're back.
It just keeps being like, fuck you, Jessica.
It happens. But yeah, I think that could be something that that takes off, that people would really enjoy.
Yeah, we'll talk about it in the top secret messaging message.
Yeah. I wonder who else you could get to be involved in that.
Genevieve, no. I think Andrew wanted to, which I thought would be interesting.
Andrew
Harrison Cox.
Who?
Oh, you should check him out. I'll send you a link to his page.
Is he in the group chat?
No.
The name sounds familiar, but
he was also in the article.
Oh, was he? I did an interview with her today.
Yeah.
Yeah, she reached out to me. Was like, "Hey, I wanted to chat with you. Are you available?" I was like, "Yeah, anytime."
Yeah.
So she called me at 4, and she asked me like a bunch of questions, and she's like, "Oh, I'm gonna make a follow-up article. Yeah, you'd probably be able to see next week." I was like, "Cool. This is crazy."
It's weird. Thanks. Yeah, it's real weird.
Oh my god, so weird.
Like, 4 months ago, I wasn't even on TikTok. I don't think. Well, maybe 4 months ago I was, And now I'm like, is this the rest of my life? No, I'm like, what's happening?
Yeah, that's one thing I told her, and she was like, "How did you gain your TikTok following?" And I was like, "I don't fucking know." Like I didn't try for this shit. I didn't use any hashtags. I didn't.
Yeah.
I just stitched a video, and boom, I had like 200,000 followers.
That's wild.
So yeah, I just got lucky with the algorithm. That's all it is. That's really all it is.
Yeah. I mean, a lot of my followers came from like one video that I posted that got like over 1 million views, and I was just like, hi, like.
Yep. I have like 2 videos that got over 1 million views that have nothing to do with atheism. Nothing at all.
You're all welcome. You're not gonna like it here.
Yeah. Like, hey, sorry I misled all of you, but what happened was.
Yeah.
Anyway. All right, I'm not going to keep you any longer.
Well, thanks for having me. I had so much fun.
Good. I'm glad you enjoyed yourself. I definitely want to have you on again at some point.
Yeah, hit me up. Let me know.
Yeah. Thanks, everyone, for attending in the comments and asking questions, as well as on our lives on TikTok. Yeah, so stick around. More to come in the near future. Give us a like, follow, subscribe, whatever. Follow Jess, aka Mother of Dogs. And yeah.
Yeah.
Good stuff. Good stuff happening.
Good times.
Yeah.
All right.
All right.
Love y'all.
Good night, everybody.